Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Green here with nomorenews.org. Thank you for joining me. Today is Monday, January 18th, 2021, and today I'm going to do a thorough investigation and expose on the QAnon 6D chess Zionist disinformation psychological operation Honeytrap. Going to get deep into it, got a lot of information to cover. But first, make sure if you're not already, bookmark and subscribe to nomorenews.org. You can find all my links and all my latest videos, no matter what platform has been deplatforming me, censoring me. Like DLive recently demonetized, so I'll be dropping the link for donations in the chat if you guys want to support. Also, subscribe on BitChute. If you missed it, very important video, maybe one of the most important videos I've ever done. Warning, top Israeli rabbi says America collapsing. Israel must step up as a new world superpower. It's got 15,000 views on BitChute. Go check that out in case you missed it. And also, everybody subscribe to me on Trovo now. Trovo is the backup to the backup to the backup, where I will be streaming when DLive bans me, or just DLive is banning a lot of people. We don't want to support people who are companies who are censoring, and they demonetize me, even though I'm against QAnon, I'm against Trump. I didn't have any part in any of these storming the Capitol, but yet I get censored as well. So there's Trovo. But let's get right into this. QAnon psychological operation disinfo campaign. I believe, and I think it's very reasonable to suggest, that the storm, quote, the storm that QAnon was hyping for almost 4 years was a form of neuro-linguistic programming, a type of hypnosis, putting the cult followers in a suggestive state. So, and this was all a plan. This was orchestrated, engineered, for Trump to Judas Goat, lead his so-called MAGA followers off a cliff to sabotage them, to destroy them, all according to plan. Trump is a Judas Goat, Pied Piper, Zionist pawn who led his sheep to the slaughter. Now check this out. I found this clip from 2017, Trump alluding to the storm, and I think we found out what he was referring to.
We will not rest until the horrible and vile ideology of anti-Semitism has been defeated and destroyed.
So this is a clip showing how his agenda, and not by just with his words, but with his actions, executive orders, anti-BDS laws, complete servant of Zion, Zion Don, the Zog Emperor, wants to make anti-Semitism illegal. His Department of Homeland Security labeled so-called white supremacists as the #1 terror threat. Yeah, the white people that have essentially no institutional power compared to the Zionist supremacist and the Jewish supremacist that think they're chosen by God to lead the world. But this was Trump's agenda, so just don't think just to show that he would set up so-called America First. He was never the leader of a real America First. It was all sabotaged.
For this reason, I recently signed an executive order to restrict federal funding to any college or university that spreads, supports, or promotes anti-Semitic prejudice in any form.
Cut funding to any university or public school that allows anti-Semitism in any form, and they go by the anti-Semitism definition that they have at the State Department. It's no criticism at all whatsoever. It actually would be a lot simpler and faster if they would just say what we are allowed to criticize Jews or Israel for, because the list is essentially nothing. There's no legitimate criticism. They find a way to delegitimize all of it. 2017.
Do you guys know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
I don't know, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be.
The calm before the storm, he says. The reporters ask, what's the storm?
The calm before the storm. The calm before the storm.
Playing right into the QAnon narrative. He knew about it all along. He refused to disavow it when he was questioned. In fact, he encouraged it. He knows all about it. His whole network around him was involved with pushing this psyop.
We have the world's great military people in this.
Now he talks about we have the world's great military people. This is the conspiracy for the QAnon people, that the white hats, the patriots in the government, they're gonna take out the deep state. That's what he's saying. Completely playing into the storm.
I will tell you that.
And who benefited from the storm? Was it Trump supporters, or are they all getting arrested and banned and labeled domestic terrorists? And Congress is passing new Patriot Act laws to target them and put them on lists. It's the ADL and the left and Jews who are benefiting ultimately from all of this. It was a Zionist organized, engineered psyop, and now they're the ones that are benefiting.
And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Give us a hint on your answers.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
We're also joined by...
You'll find out, he says. You'll find out with the storm. Well, consider we just saw a storming of the Capitol that you riled up with you and all of your collaborators. I think we did find out what the storm was.
Thank you very much.
We're also joined by Acting Secretary...
Now, this is Trump in August 2020 at the Council for National Policy meeting. This is the Zionist evangelical Christian hugely influential group.
of Homeland Security, who's done incredibly. Chad Wolf, where's Chad?
Trump's CNP appointed head of the Department of Homeland Security labels white supremacists the top terrorist threat. You still don't think that Trump would set up his so-called base that he thinks are dumb sheep?
Thank you very much, Chad. You're right in the heart of it, and got some big things coming. Very big things.
Got some big things coming. Very big things.
What kind of big things would he know that Homeland Security had coming?
Good job.
That riot was set up by Antifa, by another group called Groyper, which is a right.
Now they're trying to scapegoat Antifa, which there probably was a little bit of presence of Antifa there undercover, but to ignore that this was Ashley Bobbitt or whatever her name was, she charged in there and got shot. She was a sincere QAnon believer. This QAnon shaman guy seems like he could be a QAnon believer, otherwise just a deep actor. But to ignore their role in all of this and try to blame the Groypers and Nick Fuentes and as anti-Semitic, which, I mean, the Groypers, Baked Alaska was in Pelosi's office. Nick Fuentes was shoulder to shoulder with Alex Jones and Ali Akbar pushing all of these rallies, all of them with very incendiary rhetoric that ultimately led to this.
Right-wing group, but a right-wing group.
And now who's taking the blame for the march? Anti-Semitism. So now the right and the left are blaming the so-called anti-Semites on a complete... I mean, this is pure scapegoating of American patriots, anybody that will stand up to Zionist power.
Group that has a gripe with Trump because he's pro-Israel. They happen to be a bunch of sick anti-Semites.
Yeah, they're the fringe
Sick.
right, crazy, radical ones that are they don't belong with MAGA country.
Yeah, the people that question our subordinates to Israel are us becoming a vassal state to Israel, and our president being bought off by the Jewish lobbies and Sheldon Adelson and his involvement with Jared Kushner and Netanyahu. Yeah, they don't belong in MAGA. They're not MAGA. Anybody that questions our relationship with Israel, they're not MAGA. This is what One American News and 9/11 Chabad Lubavitch Giuliani pushes.
Trump supporters.
Some of these guys have been arrested with stuff where they're threatening to kill the president because he supports Israel.
Oh.
It's that bad.
Oh, so anybody that questions Trump's support for Israel is a terrorist that wants to kill him. That's I mean, you don't just conflate wanting to kill Trump with Israel on accident, completely by design.
The calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
You'll find
We
out.
will not.
The calm before the storm. So QAnon wasn't just wasn't just Kabbalistic disinformation. It was also a honey trap to set up what MAGA supposedly represented. Also, finally, this was out several years ago with the QAnon from Anatoly Golitsyn's New Lies for Old. He talks about the Trust Project. The Trust Project was a controlled opposition Bolshevik group that told all the people that wanted to fight the Bolshevik communists, the Russians, that trust the plan. There's good guys. The patriots are in control. Same exact thing was going on in the Bolshevik Revolution. We have the same thing, and then they set them all up. Anyway, QAnon, the storm is coming. I mean, for years and years, they just kept telling all these cult followers with the hypnosis music, the storm is coming. The patriots are in control. The white hats, the deep state cabal's going down, dark to light, which is Kabbalistic. QAnon supporters believe marching on the Capitol could trigger the storm. Well, I think the storming of the Capitol was the storm. Also, don't forget Jared Kushner hired the publicist from Blumhouse Productions. The Purge movies keep election year, keep America great. The imagery of Uncle Sam doing a purge, doing a riot, they egged all of this on. In an event where they hope Trump's foes will be punished in mass executions. Yeah, just imagine the incredibly slim chance that something crazy does go down in 2 days on the 20th. What would we would be talking about is a Zionist coup on the country, led by Zionist disinformation, Steve Pieczenik, Alex Jones, and Trump and all of his allies. That would be a Zionist coup on the country. I'm scared as hell of what we're going to see with the Biden administration, but I don't want the Zog Emperor Chabad Lubavitch Trump going full dictator, declaring martial law and insurrection and taking over the country. That would be disastrous. That would be insanity. Yeah, good point. In the chat, obviously, the storm is highly exaggerated. They basically riled them up, opened the door, let them in for the photo ops. It incredibly exaggerated the threat and the insurrection and the armed insurrection coup and stuff. They hype it up, they exaggerated it, but they got just enough to run with their narrative to fool the majority of normies out there. This was back 2017. The storm, the QAnon conspiracy was literally called The Storm, and then we just so happened to see a storming of the Capitol that gives the ADL and the Zionists and the Jews the perfect pretext they wanted to crack down on white supremacists, anti-Semites, domestic terrorism. Cui bono? Who benefits from all this? And then look at who was behind it, which we're going to get into today. Trump repeatedly refused to denounce the QAnon conspiracies because they're his supporters. His people are involved with it. He lies. He knows all about it. They're laughing. They're laughing at how they're duping you. The 3D chess or the 6D chess was on the gullible patriots of America. Many of them just hopium addicts that like comforting lies, and they preyed upon their vulnerabilities. It's literally cult-like. They also connected so much of it targeted Christians. Many of these Q people pretended to be pastors, or, we're always tying religion into it as well.
Let me ask you about QAnon. It is this theory that Democrats are a satanic pedophile ring and that you are the savior of that. Now, can you just once and for all...
The savior, Trump, as the Kabbalistic Moshiach ben Yosef, the Moshiach of Edom, as I showed you in my last video, when all the prophecies say and all the rabbis say Edom will be destroyed. He was the false controlled opposition leader that destroyed the legacy and the stain on America and Europeans and people that are America first. So much damage has been done. And I've been saying this for the last 4 years. Trump is the punching bag. He is the rag doll that all of the hatred and hostility was built up for white America. And now we're seeing it just unleashed.
Overall state that is completely not true and that disavow QAnon in its entirety?
I know nothing about QAnon.
Imagine Trump, who watches Fox News religiously, is always on Twitter. You're trying to tell me he knows nothing about QAnon? He was always throwing little bones to QAnon. Well, I'll show you the article. Retweeting top QAnon peddlers. All his top allies are QAnon people, like the My Pillow guy who funded the Jericho March for stopping the steal a couple weeks ago. He's the Kufi attending Zionist Christian Mike Lindell, former crack addict, by the way. My Pillow guy. My Pillow guy, it came out yesterday that if you do promo code to buy his pillow, promo code QAnon, and you get 20% off. And he's going to pretend like he doesn't know about QAnon. He is a pathological lying fraud.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that. I know nothing about it. I do know they are very much against pedophilia. They fight it very hard, but I know nothing about it.
They believe it is
If
a
you'd like
satanic
me to
cult run by the deep
study
state.
this, let me just tell you, what I do hear about it is they are very strongly against pedophilia, and I agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that, and I agree
but
with it
there's not
very
a
strongly.
satanic pedophile
I have
cult
no
being run
idea.
by.
I know
You
nothing
don't
about
know
that.
Okay.
No, I don't know
you
that.
just
And neither,
this
neither
week.
do you know that.
Okay.
We all know, again, the device of Catholics, and they have decided that pedophilia is a cabal.
Okay, that's one of them. Come on, what's going on here? All right, here's the other one.
During the pandemic, the QAnon movement appears to be a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that and what you have to say to people who are following this movement right now?
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much.
So he doesn't know anything about them, but he knows they're against pedophiles. He knows they like him very much. He calls them patriots. He's just lying. This is plausible deniability, trying to give them the hat tip, throw them a bone.
Which I appreciate, but I don't know much about the movement. I have heard that it is gaining in popularity, and from what I've heard, these are people that when they watch the streets of Portland, when they watch what happened in New York City in just the last 6 or 7 months, what's going on, and they all...
It is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of pedophiles and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind? Or
Well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, you know, if I can help save the world from problems, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put myself...
You see, Trump totally plays into it. Oh, is QAnon such a bad thing? They think I'm going to save the world. Is it such a bad thing?
Out
Completely pandering to these people.
And we are, actually. We're saving the world from a radical left philosophy that will destroy...
Your parting gift to the radical leftists was the best gift they could have ever gotten, the way that they're going to use this. You're either completely retarded and all your followers are retarded by handing them this pretext, or far more likely, this was by design and engineered.
This country, and when this country is gone, the rest of the world would follow. The rest of the world would follow. That's the importance of this country. And when you look at some of the things that these people are saying with defund the police and...
Okay, we got this one now too as well.
With another extraordinary moment in this presidential election, there have been a few repeatedly upended by the pandemic. President Trump and Joe Biden held simultaneous.
About QAnon in its entirety?
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact.
General Flynn promoting QAnon, doing the QAnon pledge. Alex Jones and Jerome Corsi promoting it. He's just a complete fraud.
There are some of the most shocking images from the Capitol breach. One pro-Trump rioter in face paint and a horned hat confronting law enforcement, holding a...
Real name, Jacob Chansley. Jacob puts on the furs to steal the birthright from his twin brother Esau. We have the Jews putting on the furs, just like this Orthodox Jew back here behind him, Malofsky or whatever his name was. The two guys in furs that they call a white supremacist just one of them confirmed Jewish, the other one maybe just a QAnon retard, but also Jacob Chansley was also rumored he had a Star of Remfan on his toe.
Spear. The man, now identified as Jake Angeli, flaunted the raid in an interview with NBC News, saying the fact that we had a bunch of our traitors in office hunker down, put on their gas masks, and retreat into their underground bunker, I consider that a win. Police say Angeli is a known QAnon conspiracy theorist who has been seen at previous Trump rallies. QAnon is a far-right extremist group that, among other outlandish things, believes Democrats are running a satanic pedophile ring out of this D.C. pizza parlor. Savannah asked President Trump about his stance on QAnon in October.
It is this theory that Democrats are a satanic pedophile ring and that you are the savior of that. Now, can you just once and for all state that that is completely not true and that disavow QAnon in its entirety?
I know nothing about QAnon. I do know they are very much against pedophilia.
Those comments came after the president said this in August.
I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much, which I appreciate. I've heard these are people that love our country.
Ashley?
You know, Trump probably watches all these Q videos that these hopium peddlers are putting out and just laughs his ass off.
Babbitt, the woman shot and killed in the riot, was another QAnon follower.
Yeah, she went and sacrificed her life over QAnon, literally tried to break a window and jump through it and got shot. And then we have all these QAnon liars with blood on their hands that still are saying, oh, it was all Antifa that provoked everything.
The day before, she tweeted, "Nothing will stop us. They can try and try and try, but the storm is here."
The storm is here. This is the storm that they all let him into. Dark to light. Kabbalistic Chabad Lubavitch, dark to light.
Storm is here. The storm, a reference to a QAnon fantasy in which Trump punishes Democrats for their supposed misdeeds.
Groups like this have a long history in this country of being sort of anti-government and feeling oppressed.
It's funny, they call QAnon anti-government. QAnon got everybody worshiping the president and trusting the plan of the president and whoever he basically Trump liked at any given time. It was trust Sessions, trust Barr, trust, that's who the patriots are. Anybody who likes Trump on any certain day.
The sitting head of government basically says, yes, you're right, the government is against you, then it's just gasoline on a fire.
It all comes amid major concerns about misinformation, social media.
And then Trump riled all these people up to go do this and do this storm, and then immediately disavows them all and betrays them all. And now they're all begging for pardon. Sorry, I don't think that's going to happen.
And the Republican Party. The social media site Parler gaining popularity among Trump supporters, touting in its guidelines, in no case will Parler decide what content will be removed or filtered.
Yeah, right. They're already. Parler tells you to sign, when you sign up, they tell you to follow Laura Loomer, and it's funded by Rebecca Mercer, Robert Mercer's daughter, the big Zionist billionaire donor.
Cable channel Newsmax.
They've already been censoring Newsmax, Paul or Chris Ruddy, Trump's longtime friend, evangelical Christian, Zionist.
Pushing debunked theories about election fraud, actually scored a brief ratings win over Fox News.
One America News or maybe it was Newsmax, they had to give a statement retracting all of their guest claims about Dominion voting systems because Dominion threatened to sue all of them, and Sidney Powell did as well.
And while some of those who violently stormed the Capitol were extremists, some of the peaceful protesters in Washington on Wednesday still believed similar stories.
We're going to walk down and I'll be there with you.
An analysis of online activity lists QAnon as one of the many far-right groups calling for violence at the Capitol for weeks.
Far right. When they call things like far right, it's just that we're going to call it a word that we have conditioned everybody to have a knee-jerk response to think is dirty.
Accounts linked to the group told followers to arm themselves, calling January 6th Independence Day. This QAnon follower told us she was at the Capitol riot and got to the steps.
We had a wonderful, wonderful gathering.
Another white supremacist.
Because every gathering of President Donald J. Trump, it's like going to church.
Is QAnon dangerous for the United States?
It's like going to church. It literally is a cult religion.
The only reason it's dangerous because
faith-based with prophecies and stuff and messiahs and messianic ages.
Because the people that are the liars and the thieves from this country, President Trump speaks the way I speak, the truth.
This fall, the Department of Homeland Security warned in its annual assessment that domestic violent extremists could mobilize quickly to engage in violence after the 2020 presidential election. The agency calling the groups the most persistent and lethal threat to the homeland, Savannah.
The most lethal threat, the Zionist-controlled PSYOP, now that they're using as the justification to crack down on everybody. This is interesting. Insider news. We looked through hours of footage from the Capitol riot to decode the symbols that Trump supporters brought with them, revealing some ongoing threats to U.S. democracy. Number one, does anybody remember any of the media going through all the footage and zooming in on all of the logos and the signs of Antifa and BLM as they were causing chaos and burning down police stations and savagely beating up people in the streets? Killing people, running people over, all types of stuff. No, they say, oh, it's mostly peaceful, and they give them billions of dollars, and they don't disavow it. And they say Antifa, that they're just an idea. They're not an organization. They're an idea. The ADL basically supports Antifa, says that it's a hate symbol to be anti-Antifa, because Antifa, as we know, all the headlines show you is Jews. And I have to. I feel like I can't say anything like that without actually showing it, because the Yiddish roots of Antifa, because then the ADL will call me an anti-Semitic conspiracy theorist for just showing the original Antifa was a Jewish anti-Nazi militia. The original Antifa were Jews in New Jersey. Do it. Now watch this.
Looking more closely at the scenes of insurrection at the U.S. Capitol, we started noticing dozens of symbols everywhere.
Okay, I see something in the comments that I just have to respond to. Q did wake up tens of millions of people, or Q did put out some good information. Complete insanity, complete nonsense. It got you stuck in limited hangout disinformation, worshiping the Zionist pawn president. Stop saying that nonsense. QAnon was a disaster.
The details of what
Look, America first. Don't tread on me.
people wore and carried revealed a deeper story about possible future threats.
Q. Where we go one, where we go
combed through
all.
hours of footage and found evidence of a complex network of groups driven by conspiracy theories, white
supremacies and conspiracy theories. The storm is here. Trump won, Biden lost. So the storm is here. This is the storm that they were hyping for 3 years.
supremacy, and a Trump-infused brand of Christianity.
We love you. You're very special.
As some tried to break open Capitol doors, these men pushed their way through the mob, wearing yellow logos on their jackets. The Oath Keepers are one of the largest anti-government militia organizations in the U.S. today, and they claim to have tens of thousands of law enforcement officers and military veterans in their ranks.
I remember Oath Keepers, the head of it, Stuart Rhodes. He was just at the Jericho March, the Zio Fest. He gave a speech there. He also used to be a frequent guest on Alex Jones.
They vow to protect us on display. The
Gadsden flag. Okay. Oops. All right. Next we have a timeline of Trump's QAnon presidency. Dua Lipa down there. So just a couple things here of people that Trump quote tweets a list of his accomplishments by @MAGAPill, a pro-Trump account that regularly promotes QAnon. He would go on to retweet or quote tweet many other QAnon promoting, or it says twice more in that year, but he did it more than that. always people with Q shirts and merchandise and signs would show up at all of his rallies, but of course he doesn't know what it is. He doesn't get briefed on it. He doesn't go on Twitter. Yes, I mentioned Operation Trust. The Operation Trust, I read this several years ago, and I saw this going around several years ago, and just now it's finally getting picked up by people. We've known this. Here's an interesting, Michael LeBron, a.k.a. Lionel, or Zional, as I like to call him, Alex Jones's buddy, who is always on InfoWars, a self-described conspiracy analyst on the far-right website InfoWars, has regularly promoted QAnon theories. He tweeted photos of himself in the White House with QAnon hashtags, trust the plan, where we go one, we go all. Also, a photo of himself grinning next to President Trump. And let's see, Women for Trump ad. YouTube in which several Q signs were in Trump's ad. Trump retweets Tracy Beans, a prominent YouTuber and QAnon influencer. Trump retweets Praying Medic. Praying Medic is a I gotta find the Praying Medic clip. This is the time to show it. Praying Medic is such a fraud. Some supposed Christian that says that he has visions in his dreams of God telling him to investigate QAnon. Regularly promoted by Steve Pieczenik. QAnon, here we go. This is Praying
I got
Medic.
involved in the Q movement because God gave me dreams about Q. And he's like, I want you to focus on this. You need to learn.
Trump and Steve Pieczenik retweeted this fraud. Praying Medic. God told him in dreams to follow QAnon.
Going to red pill you about corruption and human trafficking and all the other stuff that's going on. So as I've been getting red pilled about all that corruption.
Red pilled used to mean that it's a two-party dictatorship, two sides of the same coin. Not you worship the president and support Republicans and call yourself red pilled.
Corruption and stuff that you guys already know about. Now I am red-pilling you about God.
This fraud probably made millions of dollars. Maybe $1 million just him alone. Imagine all of it's a multi-million-dollar industry. The last 3 years, all of these, probably a few dozen of top Q hopium peddlers, disinformation propagandists made so much money. All the donations, all of the sales, all of the books going to these QAnon frauds, probably from poor little old ladies, people's hard-earned money giving to these con artists.
Trump and the generals are either going to eradicate, lock up, and in some cases execute treasonous, traitorous, corrupt, evil people. They're going to be destroyed, or else they're going to destroy Trump and his family. That is what's going to happen.
Trump is a traitor. Trump signs executive orders that we can't criticize Israel. He supports anti-BDS, that we can't boycott a foreign country. His top donor, Sheldon Adelson, says all he cares about is being a good Zionist and a good citizen of Israel. And you guys want to talk about traitors? Trump gave the keys to the country to Netanyahu. All the tech that flowed to Israel, all the money that flowed, all of the goodies. It was a complete make Israel great again presidency.
Trump is either going to win this battle and the deep state will be eradicated and eliminated, or they're going to come after him and defeat him and kill him and his family. He has events that did not come to pass the way people expected them to, or the way that Q kind of predicted that they would.
Okay, enough of him. Let's see here. QAnon candidates. Yeah, we got Marjorie Green, her name is, and other QAnon people running for candidates. She's the one that won. Trump supports her, endorses her. Let's see. There she is. Marjorie Taylor Greene. No relation. My Green doesn't have an E on the end. Okay, that's about it for that article. Now, Jones's involvement. Jones says, yeah, the army told Trump to come on my show many years ago. Jones is being hailed now after the march that he essentially led, although I will give him I'll be honest, there's video of Alex Jones saying, don't cause violence, pull back, whatever. Still, all of his rhetoric, all of his incendiary rhetoric the last few years, all of his calls for martial law and to round up all the Democrats, and now they're hailing him as the anti-Q voice and saying, oh, he's the voice of reason is how they're branding it. Here is Alex Jones promoting QAnon and then lying about his early involvement getting QAnon rolling.
I didn't mean to go on that rant earlier. I was thinking how much the Q stuff's driven me up the wall and how much it pisses me off, and how then I got accused of supposedly supporting that stuff because it leaks.
He got accused of supposedly supporting it. He's likely talking about me because I had several videos that got lots of views on Twitter showing that he in fact did support and legitimize QAnon big time.
Into my show, and then being accused of being part of that because I've got an organization and what my other shows do. And I was separately told this by QAnon. So I'm going to say again, I've talked to QAnon. QAnon is totally real, as Zach and our, Cape Canaveral sources and Space Command sources have pointed out, and people make jokes about that, but that's the 18th agency. You're here. This is big. QAnon. I know you know QAnon's identity.
No, this is Jerome Corsi. He used to write for WorldNet Daily, which is Joseph Farah's Zionist media organization. Literally, Zionist award-winning, proud Zionist Joseph Farah, WorldNet Daily. Jerome Corsi is also a Christian Zionist. He is a member of the Council for National Policy, founded by Tim LaHaye, the left-behind end-time Zionist fanatic. He claims that he gets text messages from above Israeli intelligence. He talks about having Orthodox Jewish contacts, and he was an early promoter of QAnon, decoding the Q drops, and then he was hired by Alex Jones to be the Washington correspondent for InfoWars, and he was busted with Roger Stone declassified emails of them colluding with Jerusalem contact who said, Trump will lose if we don't intervene. The intel is in your hands. This is Jerome Corsi.
But yes, obviously we're not going to, and I've confirmed as well, QAnon is a group in the Pentagon.
Oh, so you never supported QAnon, but here you are on video saying QAnon is a group in the Pentagon very close to Trump. I mean, Jones shouldn't be able, nobody should let him live this down. All of these QAnon frauds should never show their face again for peddling this disinfo lie. Complete textbook Soviet trust operation controlled opposition.
And very close to Donald Trump, military intelligence, specifically Army intelligence, I believe. And I've affirmed work.
We've got two Zionist propagandists here promoting QAnon heavily from their large platforms. And the ADL wants to, and I'm going to show more evidence, but just to show, they blame this all on white supremacists. QAnon was all Zionist. Proud Boys founded by Zionists, but they're trying to scapegoat white people because that is their trick. That is their deception.
Working with
that is their duplicity.
The people who run the monitored 8chan, QAnon has been using the same trip code, the same IP addresses for his devices. It's the same Q from the very beginning. And when we were decoding him, it was so bizarre. We were decoding
But
Q.
see, you're playing coy here. You know QAnon, so do we. Let's just leave it at that. The point is that Zach is part of the same group.
Why is the government not trying to investigate who QAnon really is? Unless it was all a setup. They let this go on forever. They let Q videos go viral for years. And then right before the election, they ban a couple of the big ones. So there's all this media hype and everybody thinks, oh, it's real. They're trying to shut us down. That makes them all double down and believe it even more strongly. That ultimately led to this big storming of the Capitol.
Group, but he's with NASA, and that is the beginning. And QAnon said that 2 weeks ago. And we know who QAnon is, and we play coy about that. But it's Army intelligence and some groups in Florida and others.
Real quick,
Florida, huh, Alex? You mean Special Operations Command, the tip of the spear, Delta Force Special Operations, psychological operations that you claim you're working with? Is that who Q is? Oh, I hope I get to run into Alex Jones one day. I don't even know what I would say to him first. Just complete beat down on Alex Jones and InfoWars. Total Zionist frauds.
I was listening to Dr. Corsi last night and about all the stuff on 8chan and how releasing, I mean, is that kind of like the ace in the hole, to get
I've been told by 5 different Pentagon sources, high level, that whole 8chan thing is real and that they're basically forecasting what they'd like to see happen and giving you information. But so that's
Jones is literally every day now pretending like he never believed in Q. He did a crazy rant that went viral on the QAnon shaman, the guy that had the photo ops of storming the Capitol. And then he has Steve Pieczenik on, which we're going to get into, spouting all of the Q nonsense. Steve Pieczenik, who claimed he founded Delta Force, so that's who's behind QAnon. Is Steve Pieczenik the mastermind that came up with QAnon? He's the one that's writing all these fiction books about coups and stuff.
Definitely real, and that's why Corsi's been...
The White House told him that QAnon, and Pentagon sources told him Q was definitely real, and now Alex Jones is trying to pretend like he never promoted Q. Total fraud, busted. Look, at least this has 15,000 views. Too bad the video of Alex Jones going crazy on Q just after the storm of the Capitol got like 2 million views.
See happen and giving you information. But so that's definitely real. And that's why Corsi's been, I'll let you know because the enemy knows. The White House directly asked Corsi to be on the 8chan beat a month ago. So that's directly from the White House.
The White House told Alex Jones and Jerome Corsi to follow Q. Why is that not a headline? Why has mainstream media not picked this up? The White House, Alex Jones also claimed that the White House told him to march, and then he got a big $500,000 donor to fund the march on the 6th.
Dr. Corsi is so smart. And then one other thing,
but I mean, what does that say about QAnon? Whether it's, I mean, we're being told by the White House, please cover this. So what does that tell you?
What does that tell you? It tells me that you're a lapdog agent working for Zionist Trump. And that's even what your former employee, David Knight, said about you. So now we're going to get into Steve Pieczenik. Is this Dr. Steve Pieczenik's last appearance on InfoWars? We're going to play some of the highlights from that we have here. Go over to my editing software. This is the clips of him basically admitting, Steve Pieczenik, that he's been using InfoWars for his disinfo psychological operations to basically have a Zionist coup, because Steve Pieczenik says he wants to have a Kushner presidency, a Chabad Lubavitch presidency. And that'll all make sense once you hear him talk about his family lineage.
In 7 days, Pieczenik, tell us who's going to be the president and what's about to happen.
7 days. Let me repeat it again, Jones. It's going to be Trump. It will not be Biden. Biden's people will be arrested. There will be people who will be arrested. Pelosi, Biden, Schumer. That's what's going to happen. And if I'm wrong, fine. Don't put me on your show. If I'm right, what else are you going to do? The truth is, you were the vehicle through which I was promoting the necessary actions that had to be accomplished. Think of that for a moment. You were
He's openly saying he used InfoWars to push his psychological operations through Alex Jones. Is Steve Pieczenik Alex Jones's controlled opposition Mossad handler, possibly?
First entity as a banned video you identified 19 years ago when you came forth and I associated with you on 9/11. Subsequently, many generals in Special Forces and Cyber Command and NSA elsewhere understood that the wars that were created by Cheney, who will be under arrest, the coward that he was in the avoidance of going into the draft, by Mitt Romney, a Mormon, who will also be arrested for the corruption he committed with Bain Capital and elsewhere. He will probably be desanctified from the LDS. All of these elements came out through you, Alex Jones. So you were chosen as the method through which we could initiate a military coup.
Why is Steve Pieczenik not targeted by the media for attacks? Why is he not hauled in front of the Mueller Russiagate investigation or any of the investigations happening right now? Why is he not banned on YouTube and on Twitter for being literally like this, maybe the origin of all of this insanity? He's openly talking about with Alex Jones about planning a coup. They all attack Alex Jones and just seem to always leave Steve Pieczenik out. Does anybody else find that odd? The guy that used to work for Henry Kissinger in regime change.
But for the first time, you're beginning to understand you were the vehicle through which I could implement, or the system could implement, what they needed to do. Talking about you, Alex. You were the vehicle that was initially anointed, say, by me, all right?
This guy, the day after the election, when Trump lost, said, "Oh, there's watermarks. It's the biggest sting operation ever. The arrests are already about to happen. Trump's playing Sun Tzu, The Art of War." None of that happened. Where are the watermarks? Is Trump going to come out with these watermarks before or after all of his followers are banned and labeled domestic terrorists and sacrificed their lives as they storm the Capitol to accomplish absolutely nothing? Nor was there the possibility that they could have accomplished anything positive. Just a pure pretext gift to the other side.
But you were anointed because I took that risk to say this is going to be the major vehicle for where we're going to go in the next 20 or 30 years.
20 to 30 years. The anointed one, like Alex Jones Moshiach, huh? That's what Moshiach means, is like anointed one, the anointed king.
So in this process, you have to remember, what is this coup about? This is a coup to pay back the Cheneys for the corruption and cowardness, for the wars that they sent us in Iraq.
He loves to talk about 9/11. He always seems to want to focus on Bush and Cheney and I think Rumsfeld and Colin Powell and Condoleezza Rice. He has mentioned before the Zionist involvement in 9/11, but he doesn't seem to want to focus on that. And also, maybe I have the clip here, but Steve Pieczenik once said Jared Kushner and Trump put Mossad and Israel on notice. That's what he said. Kushner put Mossad on notice. That's a Steve Pieczenik quote for you.
Iraq and Afghanistan. To Obama, who set up the war, including Biden, who specifically sent soldiers there, and we lost 5,000 people there. To Obama again, who sent us into war into Afghanistan. To Bush Sr., to Colin Powell, who lied continuously, pathological liar, who was a coward in Vietnam and said we didn't have any lie. Then he lied when he said we had anthrax.
No, I understand you're always exposing their backgrounds. How is it a successful military coup?
Oh, and by the way, I mean, although Alex just should have not even allowed Steve Pieczenik back on after the watermarks lie, he brings him back on. And this is definitely, it seems to be a contentious, passive-aggressive conversation here. Jones is a little insulting. Steve Pieczenik is also passive-aggressive back.
Against the deep state, who he knows there and is corrupt. The globalist arm of the deep state, I guess. If Biden gets in 7 days, or are you saying Trump's going to get in? There's about to be mass arrests. We don't have a lot of time here, like 150 hours. What are you saying is about to happen?
48 hours now.
I'm about to say that Biden is not going to be the president of the United States. What I'm going to be saying is that there have been massive arrests. And what I'm saying, in effect, is that we are in martial law and we have a military coup, which simply means that there is going to be
the idea that they got the Patriots clamoring for a Zionist military coup on the country and think this is winning, this is a good thing, is just incredibly disturbing. How they're able to brainwash these people.
A large number of people who are going to be arrested, detained, and will be tried by military tribunal.
They've been claiming for 4 years that these arrests are about to happen. They've made all these dates, predicted that something would happen. Never has anything happened.
The reason it's military is because we no longer trust our CIA. We no longer trust our politicians. We do not trust our governors. We do not trust the senior officials who are in Congress or in the Senate. It's as simple as that. I said it to you years ago. I told you exactly who was going to leave. They left. I wrote the book 27 years ago about a military coup happening in the United States, state of emergency. It's as simple as that, Alex.
So it's simple as that. Did Steve Pieczenik write write the book for this coup that's happening. This is what he claims: state of emergency, 1999. Interesting, right before 9/11. State of emergency. I haven't read it yet, but it says basically does not give to their demands. It doesn't seem at all like what's going on right now. So who knows? Maybe he's just trying to promote his book and make some sales.
In 7 days, Pachenik, tell us who's going to be the president and what's about to happen.
7 days. Let me repeat it again, Jones. It's going to be Trump. It will not be Biden. Biden's people will be arrested. There will be people who will be arrested. Pelosi, Biden, Schumer. That's what's going to happen. And if I'm wrong, fine. Don't put me on your show. If I'm right, what else are you going to do? The point of fact is either you want to believe me or not. I don't particularly care what most people say or don't say. My job.
Doc, you've been on the show and given us a lot of good info over the years. You said that the East Coast and West Coast would collapse and everything would move to the South. I mean, you said a lot of things that are true. I'm just sitting here watching this fiasco.
The East, you've said a lot of stuff that's true. The East Coast and the East Coast and West Coast will collapse and move to the South. What the hell is he talking about?
And I see the left provocateuring right-wing groups for a bunch of craziness this weekend, and it doesn't look good to me. So I don't want to encourage people. Like you saw the Q guys going to the Capitol with zip ties. They thought they were on a secret mission to arrest people.
You told them that Trump was QAnon, that Pentagon is QAnon. It's your fault, Jones. Don't try to disassociate and then lie and say you never promoted it.
Alex, quiet down a bit. You've never been in a military coup. You do not understand what that means. You do not.
Jones's face is too funny right here. You've never been in a coup. You don't understand what that means, he says. Look at Jones' face. Insulted a little bit.
Do not understand how quickly we work and how long we've been preparing for this. When I told you months ago that we were involved in this and we were taking over all the elements of the political system because we could not trust the Mitt Romneys, the governors, the senators, the judges. You're talking about when I said to you years ago, and you still don't remember, John Roberts, the Supreme Court justice, has been indicted. He was corrupt at the time that he made the Obama case into a tax. He then went to Malta. He was paid off. He will be arrested. You're talking about Obama's people, where I said repeatedly he was a CIA operative. There was nothing about him that was real. He was a homosexual who had been on drugs and everything.
You said be quiet. I'm asking questions here. Let's look at this. The Joint Chiefs of Staff put out a letter saying Biden will be president. Who is that from? What is that?
I don't know who the Joint Chiefs. That's not relevant to us because the real operational is not the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It's the military individuals who are involved. It's the CIA, it's other people involved.
Listen, I'm not lending credence to what you're saying, but having the Joint Chiefs go, it will be Biden, and the military must follow our orders makes...
He says he's not giving credence to what he's saying, except he's like your number one source for 20 years that you continue to keep bringing on.
Them sound weak. Why would they need to say that if there wasn't some internal battle going on?
Do you remember when I said to you, General Mattis will be thrown out? Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Was he thrown out?
Yeah, he was.
Okay. Did I tell you Mattis would leave? He left.
Look who else wanted Mattis gone. ZOA, don't appoint General James Mattis as Secretary of Defense. He's hostile to and misunderstands Israel. Who's Steve Pachenik connected to where he would know something like that?
Because he lied about what he did and who he was. Biden was never elected legally. Biden will not be in the presidency. Kamala Harris will not be in the vice presidency. All of the appointments, including this new Secretary of Defense, who they think is wonderful, but I happen to know about him.
What about the new so-called CIA director? Well, I mean, let me say this. The one thing I know you're saying is true. The one thing I know you're saying is true is we are under martial law right now. It's not just in D.C.
That's correct. I've said it repeatedly. You're under martial law everywhere. The state of California.
Why do I see Black Hawk helicopters hovering over downtown Austin this morning?
Because you're sitting down in Austin, you're working very hard in your studio, and you're trying to sell vitamins.
A little dig about his nutraceutical cells there.
We don't send Black Hawk helicopters everywhere. This is not just special forces. These are units from all over the country.
We'll see what comes out of all of this. But obviously, I'm going to ask the tough questions here. A 19-year history with this guy on air. He's given us 99% good stuff. But, I mean, gosh, I hope he's right. Now, some say don't have him on. Well, you can burn in hell, too. You know, this idea that I'm just supposed to have one view on here or one idea.
One view, one idea. How many anti-Zionists have you come on? How have you had on your show? How many anti-Trump people has been on your show in the last few years? Jones, fraud.
This is all in flux. We are under martial law.
We're under martial law. So Trump needs to declare martial law. That's what he says. So check out Schroyer now. This is Schroyer in January 2018 calling on the storm with Steve Pieczenik.
Boy, I'll tell you what. Was it the 19th? Was it January 19th of last year Trump was inaugurated? It was the 20th? Okay, so we are just 2 nights away from the eve of Trump's inauguration. And I think, as President Trump said when he went on the Alex Jones...
I just saw somebody say, oh, Jones had E. Michael Jones on once. Well, I think it might have been twice, but E. Michael Jones, when it boils down to it, is pro-Trump.
Show, give me a year. I think you'll be impressed. Folks, I think the storm is about to hit. I think the entire deep state's about to be exposed. Obama's DOJ, Obama's FBI, Fusion GPS, Hillary Clinton, all working together to try to steal an election from the American people and then as an insurance policy illegally spy on Trump and his campaign team to fabricate information and then entrap members of his campaign team. This is amazing. Steve Pieczenik joins us now. Dr. Pieczenik, I'm blown away right now. I'm blown away by what's going on in the House Intelligence Committee. I'm blown away by what's going on in the Judiciary Committees. I'm blown away by these Fusion GPS testimonies going public. For the first time ever, I have more confidence that the storm, we are honestly on the edge of the storm. I'm starting to feel the storm come, Steve. What are you seeing here?
Well, I'm glad you feel the storm come, but quite frankly, the storm was over a year ago when we brought in Trump. What you're seeing now is basically the aftermath of a major storm that had occurred with no one really understanding how Trump came in and how we and the intelligence community and others had helped to bring Trump to the forefront.
So this is Alex Jones's same narrative that people in the intelligence community, the white hats, aka all the Zionists, are brought Trump in, which there very likely could be some partial truth to that.
The storm is over. Hillary is over. Mueller's over. The FBI is over. The CIA, certain elements are over. That's why Pompeo, who was #1 at West Point, was put in. We have several military.
That's why Pompeo, #1 at West Point, was put in. Oh, my God. Do I have... Pompeo is the biggest Shabbos Noahide Goy Christian Zionist, like literally ever in the history of American politics about. He is the top. Of course, Steve Pieczenik endorses Pompeo. Pathetic.
Generals in charge. We have every congressional district. We have a military.
Tom Fitton, another member of the Council for National Policy.
Installation or project. So basically, we're not worried about any Democrats or congressmen. If you look.
Oh, not worried? It looks like Biden's about to take office in 2 days, and all of Trump's supporters are going to be on list, banned, and labeled domestic terrorists.
Look at the map of the United States. We in the intelligence and military community are basically in charge, and Trump is on top of that.
There you go. Owen, who saw my debate with Owen Schroyer? I had 2 of them. They were short. He ran away pretty quick with his tail between his legs.
Okay, so I took Dr. Steve Pieczenik's bet that if Trump is president on January 21st, 2021, that we're going to hire Pieczenik with a daily show if he wants it. I'll pay him $200,000 a year.
Remember, he says he claims that he fired David Knight because he didn't have the money. That was the first lie. But then he said, gave another story. More on that in a second.
He's got that bet, but he's not allowed, if he loses the bet, to just go away. He has to come back on the show, not to humiliate him.
Not to humiliate him? You're not going to humiliate this fraud who peddled these total lies?
I'm wrong about stuff. I felt like I was set up. No one would pay for the events on the 5th of 6th. I got the money together.
Maybe he was set up. Maybe Nick Fuentes was set up. Maybe they're involved. I don't know.
Then luckily, a donor came in and paid for like 80% of it. It's like $500,000 that ended up the donor.
They can be involved on one level, but they're only told what they have to know to do their job, a need-to-know basis, and may not, know what all the other factions are doing.
Like 400,000, like 100 something. And then we're like, okay, I'm supposed to lead this march of hundreds of thousands of people. They couldn't even hear me on a bullhorn. I get there, some idiots provocateur, they break in and all this stupidness.
Provocateurs. They're trying to blame this all on provocateurs. Not on them, not on the QAnon people.
Dr. Steve Pachenik has been more accurate than he's been wrong. I mean, I'd give him 95% accuracy rate. And he's doubling down. I'll give it to him. Some of this sounds Q-ish to me, but he's a
Q-ish. It's not fully Q, it's just Q-ish. When Jones had the QAnon shaman on like 2 days before this, he blew up, went totally crazy, said, I won't suffer you Q people, but then he brings Pachenik on and goes, oh, you sound a little Q-ish. He's just, Steve Pachenik got David Knight fired for David Knight calling out Pachenik's lies, and now he's calling Alex Jones a disinfo grifter and a fraud. What kind of power does Steve Pachenik have over Alex Jones that he can demand that his employees get fired?
real guy. He's a best-selling author. He's a psychiatrist. He did the Camp David Accords. He's been around forever.
The Camp David Accords was the screw job peace negotiation that they did with the Israelis and the Palestinians. You're telling me he was involved with Menachem Begin, the Likud Ergon terrorist?
He did write Tom Clancy's books. He did make these big films. He did overthrow governments. I mean, he's been on the show before, and
he did overthrow governments. And now what are we witnessing right now?
There's like federal investigations over it and articles in the London Guardian. Yeah, he's the one that tricked the communists to kill the Italian prime minister. And I mean, he's definitely done the stuff. Okay, it's not a bunch of talk. And so he's sitting here saying all of this, and then I see the weird martial law and all this stuff. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm just a guy that researches politics here in Texas and loves freedom.
Oh, I'm not involved. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Dr. Pachenik, you're a nice guy and a smart guy, but I don't think you mean bad. I just think you're being overly optimistic here. So we're going to find out in 7 days. In 7 days, you're coming back on, aren't you?
Absolutely. But remember one thing about...
Oh, I can't wait for that. I can't wait to see. I'm going to be watching all these QAnon people afterwards. They really should be apologizing, giving their money back that they grifted from probably poor, desperate people that are just addicted to hope.
About me. How is a very nice guy able to take out the Khmer Rouge without any weapons, able to take out the Soviet Union without any weapons, able to take out Noriega without any weapons? Do you understand what this nice guy does? Do you understand that this nice guy...
I don't involve all of that stuff, so tell us. Give us your view.
No, I just said it to you. I'm a very nice guy, but again, understand what I'm really about. When I said to you, the state of emergency was written 27 years ago about a military coup in the United States. It pinpointed Mitt Romney as one of the villains. It pinpointed the Irish Catholics, the Brennans, the Pelosi's.
Oh, the Jew going after the Catholics, QAnon and all of those types saying, oh, it's not the Zionist, it's really the Vatican that's behind everything. First of all, the Pope says he wants to ban anti-Semitism. At least by Vatican II, they were taken over. The Pope says inside every Christian is a Jew. Christian end times prophecy is all about fulfilling Jewish end times prophecy first. Who do you think's scamming who?
The Faucis, the Comos, all of that. Now, how is it that I knew that? The question at hand here is, you haven't been played at all, Alex. The reason I enjoy you is, first of all, you have an incredible mind and you have an incredible wit. But both of us are very strong-willed. You have never been played. And the reason you were chosen was the fact that I really enjoyed being on your show. I've been asked to be on a lot of shows, and I say, no, I'm not interested. But if you go on the
I'm
Alex
very
Jones
glad to be
show,
chosen, and you're a good guest about a lot of good commentary. But seriously, we built a big audience of great people. I'm trying.
Funny, Steve Pieczenik, I've never seen him on any other show. I think I've tweeted him and told him to come on my show before. He won't do it because I would ask him tough questions. Jones just gives him softball interviews and lets him use him as a conduit to push his Zionist propaganda, his QAnon disinfo.
Trying to figure out. So you can't tell us how this magic's going to happen and Joe Biden's going to step down in 7 days? I mean, explain to me the details.
I just said it to you. You're perseverating, Alex. I said to you there will be arrests of the Bidens, the Pelosi's. It's going on now. He will not come to the presidency.
I agree with you, Kat. I hope you're right. Can we meet your cat, please?
So now he kind of tries to call him like a crazy old cat man.
I only have 2. I have 2 cats and 3 dogs.
3 dogs.
All right. Well, I'm holding my breath here. StevePieczenik.com. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, don't hold your breath. Just enjoy it. Go home and relax.
That's the QAnon thing. Sit back, relax, grab your popcorn. The arrests are coming. The Patriots are in charge. Trust the plan. This is the same thing.
Well, I'm not a deep sea diver, but I have tried it. All right. I tell you, I'm going to hit a bunch of news and cover some stuff. But that was definitely optimism porn. And boy, I'll be sleeping better tonight.
Really? That's going to make you sleep better tonight? Jones also had a joke here where he says, can you have a coup and install your cat as president?
Why don't you know what? Let me bring a very simple issue here. You have a wonderful person named Daria. I won't say anything more. Ask her what it was like under the Soviet Union to live under repression. And how is it that the following could occur in every fascist system? First, you create fear. We did that.
Okay, I don't have that clip ready, but here, let's show you one more little compilation of him.
Here's the bet we're going to have, Alex.
Wait,
For those of you who don't,
here's his background.
For those of you who don't know me, I am Jewish. I came out of the diaspora. I basically am related to Rambam, and
Rambam, the greatest Jewish sage, the Maimonides, who says Christianity is idol worship, who says, who talks about the 7 Noahide laws. He's like the top rabbi of Chabad Lubavitch. He brags that that's his family lineage.
I was my family was involved with Begin and Jabotinsky.
His family is involved with 2 Zionist terrorists, Jabotinsky and Menachem Begin of the Irgun terrorist group, bombed the King David Hotel, formed the Likud party, took power in the 70s. Jabotinsky, Netanyahu's father, worked for Jabotinsky. Of course, Netanyahu's in the Likud party now.
My rabbi, and it turns out to be a family member.
Family member's a rabbi. This is the day after the election where he's talking about the watermarks now.
People will be arrested as of tonight.
He said the arrests will happen tonight, and they never happen, and he's still saying they're going to happen. And people still... I saw a poll on InfoWars that I think it was 43% of InfoWars watchers said that they agreed with Steve Pieczenik.
Tomorrow, and it will go on for quite a while. And this was a total sting operation that I can say.
So
I will
explain
not be anybody else. I have the permission to say it. I do not deal with classified information, as you know. I do not work for our government, but because I'm loyal to the Republic. Let me be very frank. I have never been an aficionado of the Constitution.
Funny, he says that he's loyal to the Republic, and then now he says he's not a fan of the Constitution. And he's basically organized a coup on a Zionist coup on America where through InfoWars. And he won't get called, he won't be attacked by the media, he won't be banned, and he hasn't been investigated by the government. How is that possible?
I have never been an aficionado of the Constitution. The reason for it, it's outdated. And what's happening now is we're coming into a...
Loyal to which republic? Israel? Yeah, good point. Come on. Why is this not
a new realism, a hyper-realism, where the states become more important. The devolution of power from the federal government, I told you, is happening very quickly, except for one thing. The paradox is that Trump is very strong as a president. The subsequent president will never be as strong as Trump because now he will make sure we're independent, We broke away from China. Our medicines are made in the United States. Our products are made in the United States.
You need a strong leader to create the de-evolution of power.
Did he really just say that all of our products are made in the United States?
Back to the people, but then like
Trump's going to give power back to the people, just like Alex Jones said. A CIA source told him that, oh, you're bashing the Rothschilds. They're backing Trump, and they're going to bring wealth back to the people.
Washington, the leader blows it up when he leaves.
No, because he is.
I'm saying he blows up the strongman archetype. I'm just saying, like,
correct. That's correct. It will go on to Pence. From Pence, it will go on to Ivanka or Jared Kushner, and we will remain a viable country and a great country. I have no fear.
Imagine saying the words Jared Kushner for president will make us be a great country. And he pretended to be against Kushner at one point, but then started just praising him and lauding him and like took the mask off and just went full Zio, full QAnon Zio. It's almost as amazing as when Alex Jones said Kushner sounds strong. He's a good-looking guy. He sounds strong. Like they're grooming him to be president. Great. Alex Jones quotes shown a million times.
Okay, so I took Dr. Steve Pachenik's bet.
Okay, now we gotta close this and move on. We're gonna talk about David Knight now. David Knight was fired over Steve Pachenik. Just as a little more vindication, you know, many years ago I had a video that I think it had like almost 300,000 views. It was called InfoWars Employees Expose Alex Jones. And we can add another one to the list now. David Knight. I brought this up with my debate with Owen Schroyer too, and he goes, oh, that guy's just a cracker, or that person's crazy, or who cares what they say. Now we have David Knight worked there for a decade. He had his own show on InfoWars. Now what is he saying? Owen. Alex Jones and Steve Pachenik still pushing clickbait lies. Disinfo shills. Ever wonder why info gatekeepers never refer to Pachenik with the usual slurs and labels? Or why YouTube has no problem with his Q shit, but gives me a strike and removes videos debunking him? Actually, I don't wonder. David Knight did a video called like my gift to David Knight or to Steve Pachenik, and I saw he did get a strike and the video got taken down. For years, Alex Jones has said Pachenik will never be on the show again. He lies about Sandy Hook, Las Vegas, presidential assassinations, but AJ keeps it coming. Is it for views or a deeper purpose? I told AJ 2 months ago he should debunk if he wanted any credibility. I think it's a deeper purpose, if you ask me. David Knight says, AJ never paid me to lie, but he fired me for telling the truth. Now he's offering a job to a known liar. How many times does Pachenik have to be proven wrong? 20,000 National Guards sent to arrest those who rigged the election. Arrest began on November 4th. That would be November 5th, I think. Blockchain watermarks, sting operation, clown world, he says. It was a hinge point, the point at which Alex became unhinged apologist for Trump and abandoned truth and liberty. How can Jones hire anyone, much less the prestigious Steve Pachenik, when Jones had to let Knight go because he was broke? And he says, bingo, Alex has had more stories about his firing than Hillary has about Benghazi. They're both grifting liars without regard for our country. David Knight says, InfoWars won't apologize. Alex Jones threatened him and his family when he demanded they retract the lies he pushed about him this week. I used to think he was a blind fool infatuated with Trump. Much more sinister than that. He knows exactly what he's doing. David Knight is probably under NDA. Alex Jones has already basically threatened to out him as a Hitler lover. And he's still saying all this about Jones. I mean, as if you needed any more vindication about what Jones is, now we're getting it from one of his top employees. Worked there a decade with his own show. And what Schroyer has to say about all of this. Now, where is it? Every day on BitChute now, we have top trending videos. Hold on. I need to find it. We got a lot of news to cover today. I'm going to have to take a bathroom break. I think I might have accidentally closed it. I did. Anyway, you go to the top trending on BitChute every day, and it's all QAnon shills. I wonder if this is AstroTurf propped up with fake bots to create a fake consensus, a fake herd groupthink, or it's just to dominate the top trending page, so that's what more people click on. That's all they can see, and also it buries some of the better information, like videos that I'm putting out. Simon Parks, this guy who just a couple weeks ago had, like, I don't even think he had 30,000 subscribers, now has 137,000 subscribers on BitChute, which very likely could be the top channel on BitChute. Look at his videos here. Every one of them is pure Q nonsense. Look at these views. 50,000 views, 825,000 views, 736,000 views. This one was with Charlie Ward, another Q shill that they're promoting in this network. 356,000 views, 720,000 views, 296,000 views, 145. Every video gets this many views. Many of them are with Charlie Ward. Here he is with Robert David Steele, another QAnon promoting fraud. You go back much further, just to December. Look, 300 views, 1,400 views. Maybe this is because his YouTube channel was still up and his YouTube channel got banned. But Simon Parks, this is the guy that's top trending every day, almost every day the last few weeks on BitChute. Wait till you see how much of a nutcase this guy is. This is him. Simon Parks loves aliens and Donald Trump. This is the stuff this guy believes.
This is the alien being that I call Mum. It's adopted me, basically. It's crazy, isn't it? But there you go.
Not even American.
Flying saucers have invaded our planet. Washington.
Many of these people promoting QAnon aren't even American. This is the guy that's dominating the narrative around the election. This guy that believes the most outrageous stuff about QAnon and aliens.
London, Moscow are key targets. The whole world is under attack. Can it survive?
So who are these people? And how does it affect them?
I'm all trembling.
Why is that?
I think it's just fear. Being taken.
What happens when they're abducted?
I have seen them appear in my room, and then you are just taken and you go up.
And why do they think they've been chosen? And this information is being provided to Amash by abductees from all corners of the UK. Whitby, in northeast England. An important council meeting is in progress.
And one of the things that we were really hoping to do would be to see if Scarborough Borough Council would transfer the cemetery to us.
It's chaired by 53-year-old Simon Parks, who's been the local Labour councillor there since last year. He also works as a driving instructor.
Follow the road round, bears round to the right. He'll wait for you, he's seen you. He'll wait for you as well, that's fine. And you go.
But when he does have some time off, he likes to go to his attic where he keeps a very special family album.
This is the alien being that I call Mum. Now, it clearly isn't my mother because I'm human, but in my mind, it got me to be convinced that it was my mother. If you can imagine, this alien being has adopted me, and so I refer to it as Mum.
This is the guy that's almost getting 1 million views on his videos talking about the election. Is the world really that mentally ill that they think this guy is where they get their truth? Or is this being propped up by bots as disinfo? My videos where I show clips, I show evidence, I show history, I back up the things I say, get, 10, 20,000 views on BitChute. His gets hundreds of thousands when he believes that his mom is an alien. It's so incredibly frustrating that people take this guy seriously. Robert David Steele just said he basically endorsed this guy in a video today.
So how often do you see your mum?
Oh, I would say probably once a month, twice a month, depending. And what will happen is that we will hold hands, and I'll say I'm ready, and then the technology that I do not understand, then you are just taken and you go up, straight up to a craft orbiting the Earth.
But having an alien mum isn't Simon's only close encounter.
That is the being that I claim to have sexual relations with. So I don't have a name. All I refer to her as is the cat queen.
So you have sex with her?
Yes.
How often?
I don't remember all of it. Probably 4 times a year, something like that.
So do you have any alien children?
You're looking at one here. This is the name, Zaka.
So that's your child?
Well, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, my friend Brian from High Impact Flicks did 2 videos on this guy. I'll do the whole link in the chat if you guys want to watch the whole thing on your own, or you could just search it. But, I mean, you've seen enough. What else? Do I need to go on? The guy says he's having sex with cats and his mom is an alien. And this is the guy that has the biggest account on BitChute promoting this QAnon crap. Here, we're streaming back on the backup YouTube channel as well now, too. I need some mods in there. Who wants to be a mod? Albert Bashai, you can be a mod. Here we go. Add moderator. Keep it clean in there for me. All right. Now, some more Q shills. We can go on and on. We have Roseanne Barr now. It's funny how they try to say that QAnon is white supremacy and anti-Semitism. Then why is it promoted by Israeli Zionist Jews like Lowell Joseph Gallon? Here he is sharing Steve Pieczenik with the hashtags Dr. Steve Pieczenik, End of Days, Messianic Era, Third War of Gog and Magog, Third Israelite Jerusalem Temple. This guy believes in Q. Here's on the Leo Zagami show, where they attacked me as an anti-Semite, by the way. He says, get ready for a very special show with one of the most controversial figures in the U.S., MAGA, QAnon, End of Days, Messianic Era, Hanukkah, Third Temple. QAnon is Kabbalah, Messianism, disinfo, honeytrap. This guy is a Zionist Israeli. And the ADL wants to scapegoat white people and anti-Semites for what happened, for what went down. Here we have Joseph Gallon again. Q from our friend, the lady Roseanne Barr. Queen Esther, who that means she's going to basically slaughter anti-Semites, Amalek in America. And Devorah the prophetess, judge of our time, hashtag Roseanne Barr, hashtag QAnon.
Q.
Roseanne, the Zionist Jew, promotes Q.
I love Q. I love QAnon. I love that there are researchers. You know, it's not everybody painting with a broad brush again, because a lot of them are real anti-Semitic. But
they consider just mentioning Soros or the Rothschilds that qualifies as anti-Semitism to these people. Just to keep note of that.
The QAnon researchers who are searching government facts and real stuff, not mythological demons and all that stuff.
QAnon researchers that go for the real facts, not mythological demons. Literally, Simon Parks is having sex with mythical demon cats.
They've done a great job to bring to the attention of the American people what really goes on in our name and with our money. And so, God bless Q, stay above the fray. And keep it coming. Keep loving, keep searching, keep connecting all those dots. And pretty soon it'll just hit tipping point and all the bad will just float away.
Amen. Thank you, Rosanna. And we probably going to see you.
I do think Trump is Q+.
Trump is Q+. I don't know what Q+ is, but she thinks it's Trump, apparently. Oh, and yes. She speaks with her rabbi, and she's waiting for Moshiach. Trust in QAnon and wait for Moshiach. Look at these white supremacist anti-Semites. They need to be censored and labeled domestic terrorists.
I like to listen to this Rabbi Kessin. I like the way he interprets Torah, because it's very like the way I interpret Torah, too, the way I understand it. But he's saying that he's trying to warn people, and I told him I would help because I believe it too. Try to warn people that a time is coming quickly, quicker than we know or understand or perceive. A time is coming when we will no longer be able to choose right from wrong. We won't be able to do that anymore because what happens is when Mashiach is made known, when Mashiach makes its presence known, the whole world is going to change. And what's going to happen is none of the old laws are going to apply. And
only the Noahide laws for the Noahide repenting Esau. Everybody else will be destroyed. You won't have any freedom of, what would you say, right and wrong, no free will.
There will be no more free will.
No more free will. Doesn't that sound great? Because Moshiach will behead all the Christians. Exactly, damn Bigfoot. And because Moshiach comes, or either when he comes or before he comes, Amalek is destroyed. Amalek is anybody that opposes their Zionist agenda. Adam, these crazy people scare me, says Highly Blessed. I know, they scare me too. That's why I'm researching and making hour-long or multi-hour-long videos about them every day.
It's wise that you get into repenting and understand what you've done with your free will and try to correct what you have.
Here she is hanging out with her, these white supremacist QAnon supporters and anti-Semites. Here she is hanging out, smoking bowls with Zionist darling Laura Loomer, talking about anti-Semitism. What else would they talk about?
Listen, have you ever gotten high? You said you've never smoked pot before.
No, I've smoked pot, but I've just never really smoked it from a pipe. I just kind of like those edibles and smoke joints.
Well, I want you to I want to be the first person that you ever smoked pot with. I'm going to show you how to do it, and then we're going to talk about.
I gotta say, I usually always make fun of Laura Loomer's looks. What do you guys think? Is this not the best she's ever looked? As mean as I've been to her over the years, I can say, like, maybe go back to this look for everybody's sake. Or does this still look like Jigsaw from the Saw movies?
About anti-Semitism.
All right. Yeah, we're going to talk about Jew hatred while smoking weed.
Yeah, it's the best.
It's great.
Talking about Jew hatred while smoking weed, it's the best. Quote.
Take an inhale.
Oh.
Just put your finger right here on your thumb.
All right.
Okay, and then suck in. You got some, right?
Yeah, I got some.
All right. Well, that's all we'll do because we want to stay rational.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be smoking weed with
feel
Roseanne Barr.
It's the lighting.
What does it feel like to smoke pot with me, Laura? Let's talk
it just
about
feels
me.
iconic.
Enough about you. Let's talk about me.
Feels great. I mean, you're an icon, and it's Purim.
Okay, anyway, it's Purim and you're Queen Esther. Purim, let's destroy the Amalekites. And that's what we're seeing happen right now, the destruction of Amalek in America and bringing down America. Like I said in my video the other day, the top rabbi in Israel says America is collapsing. That is the destruction of Edom, like I can't get into this time. Okay, so now more cues, more QAnon shills here. This one is export of videos. SGT report promoting Google whistleblower Zach Voorhees.
Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report.
Now, SGT Report, anonymous Sean who never shows his face, just makes these little hypnosis background music videos telling you to trust the plan and, hey, patriots, Donald Trump's a patriot, Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, is a patriot. Promoting all of these Zio shills and this whole, he was one of the biggest promoters of QAnon. And we're going to hold him accountable for this when nothing happens and Trump's out.
Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Thank you so much for tuning in and finding me on BitChute.
True story. Sorry to interrupt, but I met an old lady at the farmer's market who just started talking to me a few years ago about QAnon. And then she's like, watch SGT Report. You'll learn all about it. That's who they're preying on.
There's not too many other places you can find me at this point. We'll get into that in a second. But first, what does an American patriot look like? Yeah, my pillow guy, Mike Lindahl. You know, and it just so happens I got one of these My Pillows from my wife for Christmas. You know why? Because she understands that Mike Lindahl is an American patriot.
Mike Lindahl, the American patriot that's here super happy at his Kufi Christians United for Israel summit. That's what a patriot looks like, supporting John Hagee, who worships Israel, who calls for an insurrection. He just went and met with the president, and they saw on his notepad it said Insurrection Act. The guy that funded the Jericho March with one Zionist shill after another, pure Ziofest. This is a patriot, according to SGT report. Pathetic, Sean, pathetic.
And he shared a very important message with Americans earlier today. I'll play that clip for you in a second. But first,
Mike Lindell,
just a word about this video.
Stand with fellow believers and Israel. Stand with Israel. It's the patriotic thing to do.
Sponsor. We're at SGT Report, wherever you're finding us. Thanks for tuning in. Maybe it's the podcast over on iTunes or Odyssey. You might be finding us on Rumble. Thanks for tuning in. I have on the line a good friend of mine, Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower. Zach and I have gotten to know each other quite well, of course, both being involved in a lawsuit against Google. Zach, how are you, sir?
Hey, Sean, good to be back on the show.
Good to have you back, sir.
Hi, my name is Zach Voorhees, and I am the Google whistleblower.
Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower, who blocks me, calls me a shill for calling Alex Jones a shill, and then a few months later, he disavows Jones because Jones turned against QAnon or something. So another SGT report source for his, and this guy goes on SGT report and pushes the same exact Q crap that Steve Pieczenik is pushing. And of course, what do you know? He endorses Laura Loomer, has been friends with Laura Loomer since 2017. Yeah, is your guys' radar going off with this guy? Because it's sure going off with me, Zachary.
Good to have you back, sir.
Hi, my name is Zach Voorhees, and I am the Google whistleblower. I want to formally endorse Laura Loomer for Congress. I've been watching Laura since she was a journalist in 2000.
Laura Loomer with Ali Alexander making a documentary with Laura Loomer and Jacob Wohl, complete discredited trash.
Congress. I've been watching Laura since she was a journalist in 2017, and she has been one of the people that I consider with the highest integrity as a journalist.
Highest integrity as a journalist, as she sits next to Jacob Wohl with his bulletproof vest and his fake security as they're making their documentary about Ilhan Omar. This is who he endorses here.
She does not back down, and she stands up to power. And
does not back down. There she is. It looks like in Israel. I'm not sure if this is just the address 8200 or if this is where Unit 8200 is.
As your representative, she is going to represent you and your health and your family.
Here she is with Adelson, and she's going to represent you. The girl who said she was trying to get into Congress so that she could crack down on anti-Semitism, as if that's what we needed. That she was going to stand up to big tech and also crack down on anti-Semitism, as if those things aren't completely contradictory.
And in the strongest possible terms, I endorse her, and I think that you should go out there and vote and bring your friends to vote for her. Laura, you got this. We support you. Thanks.
Hey, no, that's Zach Voorhees, who, by the way, also I noticed in the last few months started supporting a total psychopath who has been obsessed with attacking me, malicious slander and lies for several years. He's promoting that person now too. Really makes me think, are they connected? Considering another QAnon Jewish Torah girl on Twitter was also promoting this character. This guy who is total lunatic, well-known toxic scumbag who lies about everybody and is a piece of shit. Anyway, here we have an ex-Google employee turned whistleblower and QAnon fan made Plandemic go viral. That's Zach Voorhees. He first left Google. Oh, here's SGT report. The storm is upon us. This is it, he says. Look at that. 207,000 views with this nonsense. SGT report. Here's Zach Voorhees. He pushes QAnon. There he is on InfoWars. He thought he was going to have a show on InfoWars. In fact, he was on InfoWars with Teddy Spaghetti. What is his real name? Vox Day. Let's look up Vox Day. He was on InfoWars, come on, with Vox Day, another QAnon promoter. Here is Vox Day wearing a shirt of the religious supremacist party, the Zehut party shirt, the Israeli Zehut party shirt. That's what Vox is wearing. Vox Day used to work at WorldNet Daily, another Jerome Corsi Zionist connection. Here's Vox Day hanging out with Mike Cernovich and Milo, two more Zionist propagandists. Zach Voorhees on InfoWars. Mind you, I DM'd Zach Voorhees and told him Alex Jones is a Zionist because I saw he had been tweeting about Zionist. And he says, Jones exposes the Zionist. You're a shill, and blocks me. Told me everything I needed to know about this fraud. Here is Zach Voorhees headed to D.C., folks. I'm organizing a group of Project Veritas whistleblowers and patriots to speak truth. We will not let the DNC and China steal this election with their fraud. Here he is right next to Roger Stone on the January 6th MAGA Freedom Rally. He first went to Project Veritas to break this Google whistleblower thing, and then he goes to PragerU, which is more Zionist propaganda. Here he is, PragerU. Zach Voorhees, Stop Big Tech Censorship. PragerU, the CEO of PragerU, is literally Military Intelligence Unit 8200 of the Israeli Defense Force. And interesting enough, here he is when he worked at Google, at YouTube, doing the interview about a shooting that occurred there.
Zach Voorhees, a senior software engineer at YouTube, who actually witnessed what seems to be part of this shooting incident. Tell me exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's right. So what happened was I was sitting at my desk programming when we all heard the fire alarm come off.
Anyway, that could just be a coincidence, but just wanted to point it out. Now, before I move on to, hold on, I'll just finish this. Here is a right-wing, this is the type of stuff that Q does. Right-wing pastor and QAnon conspiracy theorist says the final score of the college football national championship game contained a prophetic sign that Trump will remain president. This is the type of nonsense these lunatics are pushing.
It was 52-24. But what was amazing, I looked on the screen and they listed Ohio State's score first, and then they listed the score of Alabama Crimson Tide. And then actually when I looked in the morning on, I think, ESPN, they did it the same way. Seems unusual. Usually you put the team with the higher score first and the other score afterwards. But the way that looks and the way it came out, I'll put this up right now. It was a 24. Can you see that okay, Steve?
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
24-52. And then right in the middle of that is kind of covert a 45. So it's a 45 with a 2 on either side. And I went, oh, I kind of went that even as I was watching it. There is two terms. 45 was not put in there for one term. He was put in there for 2 terms. It's a confirmation on either side. There's a 2 on either side. What 22 means as well. We won't, we don't want to dizzy people with numbers. But the 45 was there. Right.
There's literally 3 numbers there, and he's saying that, and I say 3 because they're 2 repeats. He doesn't want to dizzy you with too many numbers. Just trust him. This is the sign that Trump's going to stay in. Bombshell, right? This is real investigative journalism.
Right in the middle, and so that was another confirmation. The Lord saying, "I'm putting Trump in a second term, and it's not later. It's back to back. It's right now. It's
the Lord." He says, "This is a sign from the Lord."
But the 45 was there right in the middle. And so that was another confirmation. The Lord saying, I'm putting Trump in a second term, and it's not later. It's back to back. It's right now. It's part of the Crimson Tide that's coming in.
Confirmation from the Lord, he says. We've got headline from Vice. Vice is garbage, but QAnon's garbage too. I think this is probably an accurate headline. Desperate QAnon believers think Trump spoke to them in Morse code. Look, so desperate for any sign that the plan is still in place. They believe he's using Morse code to communicate his secrets to them. This was a trap. This was a setup. They're going to hang MAGA out to dry. The idea that MAGA supposedly represented. Here is the QAnon shaman. They're calling this an attempted coup. Meanwhile, some of them apparently were let in for photo ops and followed around by professional photographers for all the great imagery, for all their headlines to talk about the white supremacist. This is what really went down.
Hey! Fucking hey, man. Glad to see you guys. You guys are fucking patriots. Look at this guy. He's got covered in blood. God bless you. Yes. You good, sir? Do you need medical attention?
I'm good, thank you.
All right.
I got shot in the face. Where are they? I got shot in the face with some kind of plastic bullet.
Any chance I could get you guys to leave the Senate wing?
We will. I've been making sure they ain't...
Is there any chance, mind you, and they're doing investigations into this now. I doubt they'll go anywhere. They'll be whitewashed. But they had been hyping this wild, chaotic event, basically Declaration of Independence, 1776, the revolution, and they allowed these people just to get into the Capitol. Where were the reinforcements? Was the Pentagon standing down? Did they stand down the National Guard to allow this to happen, to get this photo op, to allow this to happen? It seems completely staged and set up.
Disrespecting the place.
Okay, just want to let you guys know, this is like the sacredest place.
This is like the sacredest place, so just to let you guys know, I mean, this is a joke. This is such a joke. And what did these guys think that they were going to do? Did this guy really think that he was going to, by standing up behind the podium in the Capitol, by storming the Capitol, that they were going to help Trump stay in power? It's so retarded. There's no way that this plan was going anywhere. This was set up to fall from the beginning.
I know, hey. Hey! Fucking hey, man.
There he is with the professional photographer doing his Braveheart yell or whatever. Now we have this one. Remember I showed this girl the other day? FBI is seeking Riley June Williams on multiple charges after the breach of the Capitol. QAnon told me it was special for... Oh, wait, here. They're claiming that she's the one that got Pelosi's laptop. And by the way, they're saying this is a white supremacist raid. Does this girl look like a fellow white to you? I'm not sure about the name, but she looked fellow white to me in the other video. Anyway, they said that she had the laptop. She was ratted out by her ex-boyfriend, by the way, who saw her on video. And they said she had the laptop and she was trying to sell it to Russia. That's the story that they're giving. And I'm not sure if she's arrested or if they're just trying to find her. Can't remember. What do we have here? Judeo-Christian neocon QAnon psyop exposed by my friend Expose the Enemy, John Swin. This is a great video. I'm going to play just a minute of it. And then, actually, before I do that, I wanted to show one thing. Oh, here's Trump backing pillow salesman, visits White House suggesting declaring martial law. That's the patriot to have the Zionist declare martial law and colludes with Kufi, Christians United for Israel, who literally are undeclared lobbyists for the IDF. That's what John Hagee is. But what I wanted to show you first before we get into the John Swin video. Here we go. Remember, Zach Voorhees teamed up with Project Veritas. This is the headline I wake up to this morning. So not only did we have the Israeli who raided the Capitol, the Israeli Trump supporter who raided the Capitol, not only did we have the 8 buses of Orthodox Jews that were bussed in to attend the rally, not only do we have the son of the Orthodox Brooklyn judge, who they don't even they show the wrong photo. This isn't him. They let this guy in for the photo op too. FBI agents raid Brooklyn home of pelt-wearing Orthodox man in Capitol mob. It's funny, everybody on the right now, Trump Jr. and the right wing is claiming that this Orthodox Jewish rioter was a left-wing agitator despite lack of evidence. He and his father were registered Democrats, but they did an interview with him, and he seemed like a QAnon Trump supporter to me. And let's not pretend that the ultra-Orthodox Chabad Lubavitch community doesn't love Trump, because they obviously do, but they're trying to distance themselves. And again, Esau puts on the skins to pretend to be, Jacob puts on the skins to try to be Esau. We're literally seeing it play out. I did a whole video on that last week. It's up on BitChute. Jacob wearing pelts to trick Isaac. Exactly. He's also seen, when he was arrested, he was seen wearing a Project Veritas hat. And they're calling him Antifa to try to distance themselves. So not only him, not only QAnon and all the Zionists, not only Proud Boys, who was founded by a Zionist, not only the Israeli that's in the Capitol, they're making it all out to be white supremacists, and it's all Jews, by the way. And remember, the ADL attacked me, yours truly. Come on, why did that disappear? Where they say, many were united in their belief that the events on January 6th were either planned by Jews or revealed the extent of Jewish and Zionist influence over the American democratic system. Imagine calling people that notice the Zionist influence over our politics an anti-Semite. And then they go on to talk about my buddy Angelo, who says, turning out in the streets for a disgraced Zionist fraud. And then Adam Green, who they say speculated that pro-Trump rioters were manipulated by Jews, which is not a quote. I more likely said Zionist because it's evangelical CNP Zionist as well. And supporters of Israel to riot in order to discredit President Trump. No, it's to discredit President Trump's MAGA followers, his MAGA duped followers, so that they could empower a Biden administration to implement a repressive agenda. I am 100% right, ADL. And now, this morning, the evidence just keeps coming out. This morning, we have U.S. Jewish umbrella group grant to far-right group linked to D.C. riot was an anomaly. Oh, it's an anomaly. Sure, the Jews were funding the far-right group, but it's just an anomaly. They're not responsible, of course. Am I going to get a retraction, ADL, for showing all the evidence that you guys didn't even try to refute of Zionist involvement in all of this? And then my article, also Project Veritas. Project Veritas, funded by the San Francisco Jewish Federation, also funding far-right fringe groups, not just Canary Mission. So the same Canary Mission funded by Zionist billionaires that slanders anybody that criticizes Israel, tries to get them fired and puts them on lists and targets them to be banned. The same people funding Canary Mission, who attacks me, is funding Project Veritas. These include the highly controversial Project Veritas. That's 100,000 in 2016, and again, I think it was 150,000 in 2018, run by James O'Keefe. Also, the Diller Foundation is the one who funded this. Is obviously Zionists who funded it through the Jewish Federation of San Francisco, along with gifts to other groups that have been connected with promoting hate and suspicion of Muslims, as well as political right-wing organizations that have no connection to Israeli or Jewish causes, such as the Tea Party Patriots, 150,000 in 2016. Well, guess what? Back again, it's the Tea Party Patriots that they're talking about in this article that funded this rally. Donor gave money via San Francisco Jewish Federation to Tea Party Patriots, a group that denies funding the Capitol insurrection, though organizers of the riot say they did, so they're lying about it. Tea Party Patriots. Tea Party Patriots. Put some Put some parentheses around that, if you ask me. And, okay, back. Here we go. More of these. What else do I want to read here? They also funded VDare, Peter Brimlow, who endorsed and donated to Laura Loomer's campaign. Also, they funded Robert Spencer and Pamela Geller, 2 more Zionists, to oppose the alleged spread of Islamic law across the United States. Yeah, they'll talk about Sharia law, but will never tell you about Noahide laws. The ADL said the group, which received $150,000, has sought to rouse public fears about vast Islamic conspiracy to destroy American values. Yes, focus on the Muslims. Get them fighting, Ishmael and Esau fighting together. So, that is Zionist funding Project Veritas connected to Zach Voorhees. There's your connection. Canary Mission as well. So I hope the ADL likes that. Despite Trump's behavior, we Israelis must remember who had our back. Trump gave them everything the last 4 years, and he sabotaged America first in America and white America. And the way the ADL quoted, oh, I forgot something. John Swin, again. John Swin, the world, expose the enemy. You can see here, Robert Mercer funding Rebel Media, Zionist, where Gavin McInnes worked, and Tommy Robinson, focus on the Muslims, keep it completely kosher. There's Project Veritas, James O'Keefe, connected to Nina Rosenwald, and we got Robert Shulman, David Horowitz, Laura Loomer, Jack Posobiec, Robert Spencer, Pamela Geller, all the Zionist networks here. More on Robert Mercer in a second, who funded Ali Akbar, one of the main organizers of the Stop the Steal rallies. Gatestone Institute here with Rosenwald. This is the Zio, Shulman, Mercer, Rosenwald, Alt Media, Zio Network. This is by John Swin, Expose the Enemy. We're going to get to his video here in a second. So they're still, they're like, well, Trump did everything good for us, and yeah, we supported him, but yeah, now we're going to all turn. After he gave them everything, they're all going to turn on America. Arizona GOP chair urged violence at the Capitol. The Mercers, Robert Mercer, Zionists, spent $1.5 million supporting her, and she, who tweeted, "Cross the Rubicon." I did a video about that. They all wanted Trump to be dictator. Ward's Arizona Republican Party retweeted Ali Alexander, one of the organizers of the event, who is regularly on Alex Jones promoting this, and who is close friends with Andrew Meyer, the Zionist Kabbalist Jew who I've debated several times, and who recently blocked me for pointing out Ali Akbar's connections to the Mercers and the Council for National Policy. What's up, Andrew? Can't handle the truth, buddy? Anyway, Ali Alexander, who said, quote, "He's willing to give my life for this fight." The Arizona GOP said, "He is, are you?" Literally trying to get people to go sacrifice their lives, and they went and did it. Yeah, VDare got funded with the Bitcoin as well, too, the big Bitcoins donations. Good point. Later that day, the Arizona GOP tweeted, "This is what we do, who we are, live for nothing or die for something." Ward's wool, so remember, Ward is heavily funded by Robert Mercer. Rebecca Mercer were the largest donors to her super PAC in 2016 and 2018. You know she's a big Israel supporter. I bet I could search it. Yeah, they're saying the Bitcoin came from a French dude. Maybe that's true. Will we really know? So Mercer's funding Ward. The Mercers funded many groups pushing the baseless claims about the election. And yes, the ADL, the Mercers are Zionist. It's not an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory for me to say so. Rebecca Mercer is also a top investor in Parler, the new social media company, and has equity stake in Breitbart News. Remember, founded in Jerusalem with Netanyahu to be pro-Israel, fake patriot propaganda in America, to help them subvert and exploit our country in the name of patriotism, giving everything to Israel. Breitbart, who also promoted the idea the election was stolen, and is a close associate of Trump advisor Steve Bannon, former and now current and probably always Trump advisor, Steve Bannon, who grovels to Sheldon Adelson and speaks at Zionist Organization of America and takes photos hugging Shmuley Boteach, the rabbi, with the whiteboard behind him saying that they're going to move the embassy. Steve Bannon also affiliated with the Council for National Policy, as is, I believe, Kellyanne Conway, but I might be getting her mixed up with Betsy DeVos, and General Flynn, who is connected to CNP, Robert Mercer, who funds the CNP, Zionist. The CNP is Zionist. You should have seen their round of applause when Trump mentioned what he did for Israel. And Robert Mercer was one of the major investors in Cambridge Analytica, doing all the data mining on behalf of Trump. And Robert Mercer gave $150,000 in 2014 to Ali Alexander, who was a former senior advisor to the Black Conservative Funds. The Mercers gave $200,000 to the Gatestone Institute. The Gatestone Institute is the group that hands out the Defender of Zion Awards. This is Zionist psyop from top to bottom, and the ADL wants to say that I'm making it up and that it's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. What's up? Expose the enemy. Kellyanne Conway worked for the Mercer family as their spokesperson before joining Trump. I'm happy you're here. Expose the enemy. Everybody should be following him on YouTube and on Twitter. John Swin, one of the best researchers out there. One of the only sane people out there as well. Anyway, Robert Mercer bankrolled PAC advised by notorious fringe, quote, philosopher Ali Alexander. Stop the Steal organizer funded by Zionist should be headline. Here's Ali Alexander, where he says, he's at a point in his study where I believe a civil war is more likely than not. They literally were egging this whole thing on. I'm stopped consulting on campaigns because I believe, quote, or I'll be painted as toxic. I inform citizen about what I call the Lockean justification. Tyrants must be killed. It's moral, he says. They were whipping these people up. There's a term for it when you're trying to a wind-up doll. They wanted a wind-up doll to go do something, and who will it benefit? Ali Alexander says, white males, they hate us. Okay, hold on. He says, maybe if I converted from Christianity to Islam, CARE would fight ADL National for me. I'm more pro-Israel than the ADL, he says. So as the ADL runs cover that Ali Alexander is a philo-Semite Zionist funded, they're calling him and his movement white supremacist and anti-Semitic. No, I can't get lemons, Sean Hammer. I was demonetized. Thanks to all of these idiots that went and marched and rioted and stormed the Capitol for the Zog Emperor Trump. He says, I've sponsored Christians United for Israel students to CPAC for goodness sakes. Again, another Zionist connection. 100% of his current business partners are Jewish, and yet they still call him anti-Semitic. And then we have the right calling the ADL anti-Semitic, or that they hate, or that they're not pro-Israel. Such a false paradigm going on here. Here's Ali Alexander saying, oh, that he's going to die or get killed. They really speak a big game, but then they were nowhere to be found. They let all their dupes go sacrifice their lives for him. We have the growth of excuse me, sorry. We got all, okay, we're just going to go through some of these headlines and then watch John Swin. We're going to finish by watching John Swin's video. The growth. What does that sound like? Growth. The growth of right-wing extremism in Orthodox Jewish community might seem surprising to some, but others are less shocked that Brooklyn Jews stormed the Capitol alongside white supremacists. No, it's Jewish supremacists, and you act like these white supremacist anti-Semites worship Trump or something. Trump is a philo-Semitic Zionist pawn that betrayed America first and gave everything to Israel. Enough with this deception. The alert tweeted by a college student was vague. A man in a MAGA hat near West Virginia was apparently asking for the location of local synagogues and mosques. I'm sure, just like Jesse Smollett, got attacked by the MAGA hats. Same thing going on. And nobody wants an attack to happen in the next 2 days more than the ADL. Nobody will benefit more. Nobody wants it more. And yet they complain. They pretend like it's not the case. Headline USA Today: anger over perceived censorship. Perceived, yeah. 70,000 people that the ADL demanded be banned. QAnon accounts all banned, but it's just a perceived censorship. There isn't mass purges all over social media. It's just perceived censorship. That's the mainstream media headlines that they have going here. By social media is bridging the divide between far-right extremist groups and Trump supporters. There you go. All Trump supporters now, anybody that's conservative or America First now is labeled a domestic terrorist extremist. Researchers say that solidarity could increase the likelihood of violence over the weekend and on Inauguration Day. Oh, did they think that banning all the top QAnon people isn't going to make some QAnon person go and snap? They know it is. They know it's going to make somebody freak out and feel like when you have no voice, what else can you do? They're trying to push somebody over the edge and make somebody snap so it'll benefit their agenda. And we know it. That's the design. They hope it'll happen. We have extremists are using encrypted channels to plan for Inauguration Day violence. It really seems like they're praying for something to happen, or they have a big thing set up. A big false flag is going to happen. Yeah, guys, I still keep saying it. If you guys want to support, you can't send lemons anymore. Even though I don't support any of this, I was demonetized from DLive. Here's another one. Associated Press. Podcast rife with misinformation. Remain on social platforms like Apple and Google as extremists exploit a loophole. So they consider banning you from everywhere, and then you want to have a podcast. That's considered a loophole, like it's something illegal to have a podcast. Freedom of speech is a loophole to these tyrants. Loophole, the podcast loophole. As if podcasts are some kind of like thing that like aren't ubiquitous in our world right now. They call it a loophole. Richard Blumenthal, and now to show how whites are being scapegoated for all of this. Richard Blumenthal, Jewish, says extremist ideology threatens to compromise the unity and effectiveness of our armed forces and jeopardize our national security. Glad to see the Department of DOD agree with the letter 13 senators and I sent calling for an investigation. An investigation into white supremacist anti-Semites in the government. Department of Defense, Richard Blumenthal, purging the military so that they can go send them over, the ADL can go send them over to Israel and train and get their ADL indoctrination. Next, we have Daily Beast. Other countries have domestic spy agencies to fight extremists at home. Does America need one too? Oh, of course. Of course they do, Daily Beast says. That's written by Jeff Stein, another fellow white. The Patriot Act was set up for the Patriots all along, and now they're going to roll out Patriot Act 2 thanks to Trump and retarded QAnon followers. We've got Apple sued for not removing Telegram from App Store over violent content in hate groups. That is done by Ambassador Mark Ginsburg, who was raised in Israel. First Jewish American to be appointed as an ambassador to a country in the Arab world. Again, every single time, literally, an Israeli trying to censor. We have free speech in America, Israelis. Do you not understand that? Apparently you don't. The attacks on white people have been intensifying over the last 4 years under Trump. They use him as the boogeyman and the villain to do this. Now he's going to pull out the rug from all of his followers, and they're going to be destroyed. Now we have Vox headline, white women built white supremacy too. Oh yeah, it started with the white men, and a lot of the women joined in with the chorus, but now they're coming for you too. We have time. Like, I literally do these videos, and I sometimes pause, and I don't even like saying, like, there's a war on white people. There's a war on white American Christians and Europeans. But then we literally see headlines like, white American Christianity needs to be honest about its history of white supremacy, writes Carrie Wallace for Time. Time magazine is owned by every single timer. Hold on. Mark Benioff. Mark Benioff is Jewish. Again, white American Christianity. That's who the war is on. That is Edom that they're trying to destroy. And their pawn, fake Zionist leader, Trump, is going to facilitate the destruction of Edom and Amalek. Next up, we have Ben & Jerry's. 2 Jews saying yesterday was not a protest, it was a riot to uphold white supremacy. We literally have, this is the face of white supremacy. Looks like Sam Hyde, but an Orthodox Jew here wearing fur pelts. That's white supremacy. QAnon is white supremacy. I saw somebody in the comments a minute ago say that they talked to their family member or their neighbor, and they said QAnon is white supremacy. That's what the media is teaching you. That it was a white supremacy march. There's one guy, one retard in a Nazi shirt, and then the media also put around everywhere that there was another guy with a Nazi shirt, but it turned out that was a photo from a year before, shows their deception, their media duplicity. We have Al Jazeera, who supposedly is anti-Zionist, but they always find a way to blame whiteness in America and the West for Zionism, like we see here in this headline, the Zionist fallacy of Jewish supremacy. Framing Zionism as Jewish and not white supremacy is a dangerous proposition. So yes, Jewish supremacy isn't Jewish, it's white. That's literally what they try to say. Always trying to scapegoat the West. Here we have Time again. If Donald Trump wins a second term, blame white people. Blame white people. AOC proposes funding to deprogram white supremacists. We have Washington Post. To understand Trump's support, we must think in terms of multiracial whiteness. So even though it's not all white, it's still whiteness. It's just multiracial whiteness. Multiracial whiteness is just another term for struggling with the fact that some of the people who disagree with you are brown or aren't white. Angelo John Gage, who I need to get back soon, makes a good point. He says here, imagine if the Israeli government considered Jews the #1 terror threat to Israel. You'd ask yourself, who the hell took over Israel? Yet people don't use the same logic when it comes to the obsession with the meme of white supremacy in the United States. Opinion, America's white liberal media is complicit in Trump's rise and his insurrection. Even white people on the left are to blame. Maurice Pinet says, Jews engineered and financed Trump's rise and his scapegoating, which goy progressives are piling on as they always do. Wannabe Jews that they are. I don't get that part. Here's my tweet the other day. There is a concerted effort to make anti-Semitism illegal, which I just showed in my BitChute video a couple streams ago. What QAnon is distracting you from, the agenda to make anti-Semitism illegal. There is a concerted effort to make anti-Semitism illegal while anti-white sentiments are broadcast constantly by the media and politicians. You tell me who is in charge here. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out who has the institutional power and where the real supremacist threat lies and who the real supremacists are. The ones that think they're chosen by God and destined to have the Gentiles serve them and rule the world. That's the most supremacist creed on earth. Let's see. Oh, we have another anti-Zionist Jew here from Code Pink, Ariel Gold, always scapegoating white people for Jewish supremacy. We have breaking. Sheldon Adelson has died. The world will be a safer place without his racist hatred and funding of white supremacy. The guy that funds birthright foundations. Birthright. They have the birthright of being chosen. The birthright where Esau has to serve his brother. She always finds a way. This is controlled opposition where they always blame America for Jews, for what Jewish control and Jewish supremacy and for what Israel does. This is her purpose. Funding of white supremacy, Sheldon Adelson. Here's just the way the narrative changes. Jake Tapper, Jewish, from CNN. U.S. says Capitol rioters intended to capture and assassinate elected officials. And a few days later, no direct evidence of plot to kidnap or kill lawmakers in U.S. Capitol attack. Well, then why were those idiots in there with zip ties? I saw the photos of the guys with zip ties. Mind you, they're talking all day about white supremacist organizations and everybody's a white supremacist. This is the same media that runs complete cover for Antifa, says that they're not an organization. They're just an idea, they say. And then meanwhile, Atlanta anti-fascist says white supremacists were plotting to kill a couple that they believe to be members of our organization. Not an organization, huh? ADL here, this is great. There is a distinct difference between criminal doxing, a common tactic of white supremacists, and others to facilitate the stalking of and terrorizing of targets, and the important reporting of extremists and hateful activity. Our laws must clearly reflect that. In other words, the ADL says, doxing is evil unless we do it. Doxing for us, but no doxing for you, the kings of double standard. Once again, I can't imagine why anybody would hate these people. It's just incredible. Here we have anti-Zionists and members of QAnon are the same to me. Is that why QAnon was promoted so heavily by so many Zionists, as I showed? Like Roseanne and Jerome Corsi. Okay, I think that is the end. And now we're going to watch Expose the Enemy. I'm going to share this link right now. Everybody make sure to go sub to his channel. He deserves way more followers and views on this video. You guys can watch the whole thing. We're going to watch the first few minutes. And I'm going to shut up and not pause either. This is John Swin, Expose the Enemy. His title of his video, Judeo-Christian Neocon QAnon PSYOP Exposed.
Hello there, this is John Swin. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. This video will be covering information regarding Paul E. Vallely and his role in PSYOPs, Delta Force, his role at Fox News, the Iraq War, the Tea Party, and alternative media. Paul E. Vallely, born November 29th, 1939, is a retired US Army Major General and senior military analyst for Fox News. He served in the Vietnam War and retired in 1993 as Deputy Commanding General, Pacific Command. In 2004, together with retired Air Force Lieutenant General Thomas McInerney, Vallely co-authored the book Endgame, The Blueprint for Victory in the War on Terror. So an interesting note to begin with is, in 2007, Alex Jones released a documentary film called Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. As far as the General Vallely co-authored book goes, I guess we should listen to the guy who helped lobby the public into supporting the Iraq War, with the narrative of being an effort to combat terrorism on how to end the quote-unquote war on terror. General Vallely serves as the military committee chairman for Frank Gaffney's Centre for Security Policy. The Centre for Security Policy is financed by major military-industrial complex corporations such as General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Boeing and Raytheon, as well as big foundations such as the Sarah Scaife Foundation, the Bradley Foundation and Templeton Foundation, as well as Zionist billionaires such as Nina Rosenwald. Frank Gaffney and his associates and extended groups such as the Committee on the Present Danger China, Islamophobia Network that include the likes of Daniel Pipes, David Horowitz, Robert Spencer and Pamela Geller, serve the interests of their financiers. General Vallely is no different in that respect. Working for the Centre for Security Policy, Vallely would occasionally write articles and give lectures on the war on terror. Some of his public statements have caused controversy, such as proclaiming that we are not going to permit a Shiite victory in an Iraqi election, and claiming that the war on terror is a war between Islam and Judeo-Christianity. That's what's going on. If you don't understand that, then you don't get it, said General Vallely. Vallely's religious war ideology is one similar to Eric Prince's religious crusade rhetoric held by many of his close associates during his time operating the private military group Blackwater, who received government contracts to operate in Iraq.
The slaughter of civilians for sport, weapons smuggling, destruction.
Remember, Eric Prince and Blackwater also trained Project Veritas, another connection there, and is involved with the Council for National Policy.
Of evidence, wholesale corruption, and finally murder. In our third story in the countdown, a full-fledged criminal enterprise executed by the military contractors known formerly as Blackwater, according to the sworn testimony of two of its employees. The nation's Jeremy Scahill, who broke the story, joins us in a moment. The details come straight from two sworn affidavits filed late last night by persons whose identities have been sealed to protect their identity, men who have previously cooperated with federal prosecutors in the criminal inquiry into Blackwater. From John Doe No. 2, a former member of Blackwater's management team, quoting the affidavit, it appears that Mr. Eric Prince, Blackwater's founder, and his employees murdered or had murdered one or more persons who have provided information or who were planning to provide information to the federal authorities about the ongoing criminal conduct. On several occasions after my departure from Mr. Prince's employ, Mr. Prince's management has personally threatened me with death and violence. John Doe No. 2 also stating that Mr. Prince, pictured here, smuggled unlawful weapons into Iraq, including sawed-off semi-automatic machine guns with silencers and illegal hand grenades. And the affidavit also says that Prince, quote, views himself as a Christian crusader eliminating Muslims and the Islamic faith from the globe. To that end, Mr. Prince intentionally deployed to Iraq certain men who shared his vision of Christian supremacy. Many of these men used call signs based on the Knights of the Templar, the warriors who fought the Crusades. Mr. Prince operated his companies in a manner that encouraged and rewarded the destruction of Iraqi life. Going to Iraq to shoot and kill Iraqis was viewed as a sport or game. Strikingly similar allegations made in the affidavit of John Doe No. 1, a former U.S. Marine who worked for Blackwater in Iraq. He alleges that incidents of unjust...
Remember Trump just pardoned a bunch of guys, criminals from Blackwater last week too?
Justified deadly force were initially videotaped and watched in a session called a hot wash. Blackwater, now known as Z Services, spelled XE, maintains that Mr. Prince and the company are innocent of any wrongdoing and performed their duties on behalf of their employer, the State Department. Joining me now, as promised, the contributor to The Nation magazine and author of Blackwater, The Rise of the World's Most Powerful Mercenary Army, Jeremy Scahill. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me back, Keith.
As horrific as all this sounds, it's just part of what you described in the piece today. Flesh it out for us.
Well, I mean, obviously, to hear the term murder and Blackwater in the same sentence is no great surprise, particularly to people who've been following the history of this company. It's been at the center of some of the worst violence in Iraq, killing civilians repeatedly. 5 of its men are going to be tried on manslaughter charges for the Nicer Square massacre in Baghdad in September of '07. Another one pled guilty. The Congress is investigating. The IRS is investigating. This is a scandal-plagued company. What is explosive about what's happened here, and you just went through some of the most explosive of these details, is that you have 2 former Blackwater officials. I have learned from sources that John Doe No. 2 was actually in Blackwater management and was privy to some of the inner workings of the company. Eric Prince, the owner of Blackwater, remains the sole owner of the company no matter that he stepped down as CEO and the founder of the company. He micromanages every aspect of Blackwater's operations, and that's been well known. On the Christian supremacist angle, let's remember that Eric Prince viewed Blackwater as a neo-crusader force and has from the beginning. This is a guy who comes from one of the powerhouse families of the radical religious right. His father was a major bankroller and gave the seed money to Gary Bauer to start the Family Research Council. James Dobson focused on the family. And then we had his forces deployed in Iraq as part of a war against a Muslim nation that George Bush characterized as a crusade. What we have here, Keith, is a confirmation from inside insiders at Blackwater that, in fact, Eric Prince did have a neo-crusader agenda, and most explosively,
Neo-Crusader agenda. General Jerry Boykin, Alex Jones has referred to him many times. I believe he's been on the show as well. Another connection there, CMP.
may have murdered or facilitated the murder of individuals that were intending to or did cooperate in the federal government's criminal investigation of Blackwater. This is deadly serious.
Right, to the murder in a second, but you mentioned something in here that strikes an obvious question. How could the Bush administration, the State Department, have missed this crusader element here, or was that what they were looking for?
Missed it? I think it was considered a plus in the Bush White House. Remember, Keith, what we had here was the Bush administration essentially create a force that acted as an armed wing of the administration, not subject to the military command, not subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, that reported directly to George Bush's Secretary of State and then to the president. These were his men, his private force in Baghdad, and the allegations that they were running around shooting Iraqis as part of a war to eliminate Islam globally, as is actually what one of these individuals said, is extremely disturbing to anyone who believes in any semblance of Constitution, law, or human rights.
Some specifics, what you know about this is strong term murder in court documents. This is under oath. This is not somebody throwing something up against a wall to see if it'll stick. Are we talking about something related to the 2007 Baghdad massacre, or something here?
It's unclear, but this is what I'll tell you what I do know about this, Keith. The fact of the matter is that these individuals in these sworn depositions provided those depositions to lawyers, Susan Burke and the Center for Constitutional Rights, that are suing Blackwater on behalf of Iraqis killed by Blackwater operatives in Iraq. They're suing them in civil litigation. What we do know is that these same individuals say that they gave this identical information to the federal government, one of them in grand jury testimony, as part of the ongoing criminal investigation. When I called the Justice Department and asked specifically, are you investigating Eric Prince on allegations that he was involved with murder, the Justice Department interestingly said that they would not confirm or deny any actions that they may or may not be taking against uncharged individuals. Eric Prince, according to the lawyers suing Blackwater, could be eligible for murder charges in both Virginia and the state of North Carolina under existing law. That's the argument they're making in their motion that was filed late last night in the Eastern District of Virginia.
Jeremy Scahill, who's been the watchdog on Blackwater, now Z of the nation, who brought this story to everyone's attention today. Great, thanks for doing so. And great.
Major General Bellali's Judeo-Christian beliefs also have been expressed in his support of the Jerusalem Summit Organization, that advocate the resettling of all Palestinian people to other surrounding Arab nations as a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and to bring about the organization's belief that one of the objectives of Israel's divinely inspired rebirth is to make it the center of a new unity of the nations, which will lead to a new era of peace and prosperity. It doesn't end there. Bellali has been a consistent promoter of fear-mongering in regards to Islam. In a letter of support of the Veteran Defenders of America, he stated, "Perhaps the greatest threat to our safety and liberty is the threat of radical Islam. This threat goes well beyond the threat of terrorism. Islamists, both inside and outside of America, are looking for any and every way to infiltrate and subvert our country through what is known as stealth jihad." Bellali and his extended anti-Islam network surrounding Frank Gaffney have promoted all kinds of anti-Muslim conspiracy theories, such as claiming former CIA director John Brennan has been a secret Muslim.
By the way, Frank Gaffney, CNP signatory, he was at the Jericho March Stop the Steal rally as well, gave a speech on stage.
Hillary Clinton aide Umar Abedin has been part of a Muslim Brotherhood plot to infiltrate the United States, as well as a birther conspiracy claiming the 44th US President Barack Obama was not a natural-born citizen, therefore making him an illegitimate president. This issue of the birth certificate is what catapulted Donald Trump onto the political landscape. Looking into the background of Major General Bellali, the underlying philosophy of Trumpism, and certain statements from high-level political operatives, we can see a clear pattern of what can be described as a war on reality, or creation of a alt-reality.
Oh, I should be reading, maybe. This is Karl Rove saying that they basically create the news. You'll be left to just study what we do. Henry Kissinger, intelligence is not all that important in the exercise of power and is often, in point of fact, useless. And then there's alternative facts from Kellyanne Conway. Orwellian doublethink. She exposed Trump and then was hired by Trump and became a shill for him. Just a complete prostitute. Political prostitute. General Paul E. Valley, co-authored 1980 paper, then PSYOP Michael Aquino, PSYOP to Mind War, Psychology of Victory. Mind War is defined as the deliberate, aggressive convincing of all participants in a war that we will win the war. That's QAnon. The paper contrasts a use of psychological operations such as propaganda with a new approach. The paper contains this passage. Interesting, Mind War and Info Wars as well. Deception, or even with selected and therefore misleading truth. Rather, it states a whole truth that if it does not now exist, will be forced into existence by the will of the United States. And he was a Satanist, Michael Aquino. He died recently. Matthew North was interested into Mind Wars. Really wish he was around right now to talk about everything that's been transpiring.
John Brennan was the CIA station chief in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. This is not prominently talked about on any of the mainstream media outlets. He stamped the...
Oh, interesting. Pete Santilli, who I just saw had Robert David Steele on the other day, asking him, what do you think's going to happen? Is Trump going to get in? And is Biden going to be arrested? Here he is with Major General Vallely.
9/11 hijackers' passports and allowed their paperwork to get through without even being properly filled out. This is the same John Brennan we're having to contend with now. John Brennan, okay, we have still not held him accountable for that mistake in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and allowing those terrorists to fly into the World Trade Center towers and attacking our nation and changing the world forever. You're well aware of this, correct?
Correct. And he converted to Islam while he was in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, sir. We definitely want to highlight that.
Yeah, Santilli doesn't know who was behind 9/11. And here, by the way, I'm not defending Brennan, but they hate him so much. Could this be why? Israel helped kill bin Laden. Netanyahu is not an ethical man. Santilli fed post daily, yet is still platform. I haven't followed him for the longest time. I thought I remember one time Pete Santilli was protesting Alex Jones in front of his studio, and then now I just saw he was on Alex Jones a couple days ago. So obviously, that's troubling. And he had Robert David Steele on, who's pushing Simon Parks and Charlie Ward and Mel K and all these QAnon trust the plan shills. Oh wait, okay, let's speed this up. Let's go to here.
Prior to that date, her affiliation with the CIA was not common knowledge outside the intelligence community.
A lot of this goes back to President Reagan, who is a Zionist frontman, actor, and Iran-Contra. Alex Jones recently said in a video that he's got some connections to Iran-Contra also.
This fact was a pivotal one in proving the case against Scooter Libby. A logical conclusion would be that Vallely was trying to establish a narrative that it was known outside intelligence that Plame worked for the CIA, and her husband was a source of this knowledge as an attempt to undermine the charges against Scooter Libby. Libby was assistant to the Vice President for National Security Affairs, Chief of Staff to the Vice President of the United States, and assistant to the President during the administration of President George W. Bush. Libby was convicted of 4 counts, 1 count of obstruction of justice, 2 counts of perjury, and 1 count of making false statements, making him the highest-ranking White House official convicted in a government scandal since John Poindexter, the National Security Advisor to President Reagan in the Iran-Contra affair. According to statements made by Vallely.
Oh, and by the way, yes, Scooter Libby is another Iran-Contra Zionist criminal who was pardoned by Donald Trump.
A week following the events of 9/11, he was recruited as a senior military analyst at Fox News.
But those that are listening to us are all of a sudden going to start calling us Islamophobic. I say I'm not against Islam per se. I'm against global Islamic terrorists, which I consider that he was assisting that in many ways, especially by letting those hijackers in. So 9/11 was never really fully properly investigated. We never held people accountable for the mistakes that were made. You had whistleblowers in the FBI that were saying, "Oh my goodness, you've seen all the signs, all the intel reports. This stuff was covered up. For what purposes do you believe? Was it for profits of war?"
There were a lot of conspiracy theories. We have the same thing going on today, and we sort of have to stay away from any of the conspiratorial things.
Yes, sir.
Until we can establish those, as facts. And, talking about John Brennan, he's got to be one of the first when Durham and Barr have to indict.
Yes.
Along with about 6 others real quick. That's what I would do if I was Barr. Comey, Brennan, Clapper, and all tracks back to the Obama White House, too, by the way, just like Benghazi did. The week after 9/11...
Did you see that? John had it written up here that Obama wasn't in the White House in power on 9/11. What is he talking about? It all tracks back to Obama.
And all tracks back to the Obama White House, too, by the way, just like Benghazi did. The week after 9/11, Fox News hired me to be their senior military analyst, and I formed the military analyst team at Fox News up until 2000.
So right after 9/11, this guy got hired to be the military analyst on Fox News. What does that tell you? They're running cover for the wider intelligence network that he works for.
And then I've been in the intelligence business for a long, long time. My last 20 years in the Army was in special operations.
Special Operations Command, like Alex Jones says he's working with. This is John Swin, exposetheenemy.com.
Documents obtained by New York Times reporter David Barstow revealed that Vallely had been recruited as one of over 75 retired military officers involved in the Pentagon Military Analyst Program. Participants appeared on television and radio news shows as military analysts and/or penned newspaper op-ed columns. The program was launched in early 2002 by then Assistant Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs, Victoria Clark. The idea was to recruit key influentials to help sell a wary public on a possible Iraq invasion. Under the umbrella of the program, Vallely asked the Pentagon for input on an April 2006 Wall Street Journal editorial defending then Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. As he began work on the op-ed, Vallely emailed, "Any input for the article will be appreciated," to Dallas B. Lawrence, the Defense Department's Director of Community Relations and Public Liaison.
There's Joseph Farah from WorldNet Daily. Remember I mentioned him earlier. He's the proud Zionist. They literally, at WorldNet Daily, they write articles about Moshiach's crown, and we're building the third temple, and the prophecies are coming true. That's where Jerome Corsi left there to go work for InfoWars. Christopher Ruddy, Newsmax, they're all tied in with the CNP. Scafey.
To talk more about it, we welcome in retired United States Army General Paul Vallely. He joins us from Newsmax, New York. He's also the chairman of Stand Up America. Paul, it's great to have you here.
Ask you something else that the president brought up during that interview with Jon Stewart is he kept saying that no one is offering an alternative to the deal that he has presented. What's your reaction to that?
Well, there's been several alternatives. The first of all is no deal. That's a solution that we all believe in, as Bibi Netanyahu does in Israel, who is the prime target over there, with the United States being the next big target.
Oh, well, we do what Bibi Netanyahu says he wants us to do. Tells you everything you need to know right there.
And speaking of grave concerns, Paul, you have said in the past, you have written articles saying it is your belief that Iran already possesses a nuclear weapon. That is ominous indeed. What leads you to believe that, Paul?
Well, over the past year, JD, my intel analysts have taken all the evidence, hard evidence, facts, intel reports coming from inside Iran and from the Middle East, and they have, for the past decades, have gotten the support from Russia, from North Korea, and from China. So it's a cabal that's been set up to support the Iranian nuclear program. They have the launch systems, they have the guidance control system, they have the detonation system, they have the warhead. And guess what?
And mind you, this all plays exactly, they're all connected to CNP, right? Council for National Policy. The founder of that, I did the document, or I've shown it before, Tim LaHaye. He believes that Russia is Gog and Magog, and that them in Syria means that the end time Armageddon war is about to happen. They want it to happen. They want mass suffering, mass deaths, the birth pangs of the Moshiach, so that Israel can set up their one world government, one world religion, one world currency, mark of the beast, anoint their Antichrist Moshiach king in the temple, and then Jesus will return. This is what they're all trying to play out.
Russia and North Korea has tested everything for them. All they have to do is put it together, JD, like a tinker toy. And that's why they have the nuclear capability now. And this agreement is really a moot point. The only reason Iran wants to do it, to get released some $150 billion from sanction money they can take to use to further their programs.
Jerome Corsi promoting QAnon on InfoWars. I already showed the clip of that. Shift with treason to QAnon. There's Jerome Corsi. Big promoter of QAnon. Says he gets text messages from above Israeli intelligence on Alex Jones' show. True News at least used to be completely tied in with all these people. And then they have on Roger Stone and give him the nice puff piece interview, like to try to help promote him to get a pardon. On True News, Paul Valehi, 2014. Rick admits that he used to be tied in with all of the Zionists. Like Pastor Jonathan Kahn, who was at the Jericho March, Doug Hagman, Jerome Corsi, Boykin. Alex Jones talks about Boykin as being involved with the military that he's working with. Gaffney, Bannon, Woolsey, Lieberman. Remember Joe Lieberman attended the Chabad Lubavitch conference? Said that Chabad Lubavitch is bigger than the CIA? Yeah, he's connected with this crew. Newt Gingrich, who was a favorite in 2012, funded by Sheldon Adelson.
General Dalley, I have a question for you from our chat room on the American Rock Radio fan page. Do you know who the individual calling himself or themselves, if it's an organizational effort, Q? What do you know about that? Was that part of the PSYOP? What are you at liberty to say? Or is it a bunch of bunk?
Well, let me just tell you the QAnon is tied to information. It comes out of a group called the Army of Northern Virginia.
Army of Northern Virginia. That's Paul Valehi, top military analyst on Fox News right after 9/11, legitimizing QAnon. Here you go. Maybe this is why there's no real investigations into QAnon. You don't think QAnon is a Zionist setup after hearing that?
Okay.
After hearing everything?
No, this is a group of military intelligence specialists.
Nobody is exposing QAnon quite like this, thanks to John Swinn's great research and the stuff I've showed you today that we've been collecting over years.
Over 800 people that advise the president.
And so,
the president doesn't have a lot of confidence in the CIA or even the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency, as much anymore. So he relies on these real operators. Most of them are special operations type of people.
Yep.
And so this is where Q
Special operations type of people, just like Alex Jones talked about.
picks up and gets some of their information, as I understand it.
That's where Q gets their information, as I understand it. Oh, he says here, I was appointed by, this is Valehi, I was appointed by President Reagan when he made special ops a separate service under a 4-star general. I helped to organize and put that together, says Valehi. It is referring to the USAISA, the same group behind PSYOPs, and who Valehi says is behind QAnon. He set it up, likely with Steve Pieczenik. And they ran it through InfoWars. Steve Pieczenik already said it. He said, I did this through InfoWars. We chose you. We anointed you to be our propaganda mouthpiece. Okay, Army of Northern Virginia is Field Operations Group, Intelligence Support Activity, Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC. I'm going to play the Alex Jones clips of him talking about being involved with all of this stuff. Yeah, they sure did do a good job mind effing everybody, Sarah B. And a part of me is worried that we will see a serious Zionist coup. I hope that they're just blowing smoke, and it was just disinfo. I do not want to see a martial law Zionist coup on the country. U.S. Army intelligence buildup. Okay. Special Operations Forces, Delta Force. Alex Jones says that Steve Pieczenik founded Delta Force. SEAL Team 6. What else do we have? The Army of Northern Virginia was the primary military force of the Confederate States of America in the Eastern Theater of the American Civil War, the primary command structure of the Department of Northern Virginia. It was most often arrayed against the Union Army of the Potomac.
Excellent. Well, Michael Murphy is kind of an old hippie, you might say, out here, but he was the founder of the Esalen Institute down below Big Sur, which is a kind of a place where you go to open up your mind and your brain and schmooze with other people. And he also founded a think tank up in the Bay Area called the Transformation Project with a gentleman named Steve Donovan.
I remember Matthew North saying that the Esalen Institute was like Soviet controlled.
So in the 80s, when I was working very intensely in these areas of what you might call the brain architecture and thought architecture and how it works, sooner or later, I ran into Steve Donovan. Actually, the way I did that was that Michael Murphy wrote a book called An End to Ordinary History, which was a very thinly veiled fiction story about psychic experimentation in the Soviet Union. I picked it up in a Berkeley bookstore at some point. I read this book and I said, you know what? This sounds a hell of a lot. You know, he knows a lot more that he's talking about here than just writing a story. So I got a hold of Michael Murphy and I said, you know, I think your book is not a story. I think it's thinly veiled nonfiction. He said, well, you're right. And he said, if you want to talk about it, he says, you want to talk to Steve Donovan. So Steve Donovan had a nice little apartment down here in the Marina in San Francisco. And his apartment was jammed with file cabinets in which psychic research and mental research from all over the world was in there. I mean, the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency had nothing like this. Nothing. So I was like a kid in a candy store. You know, I went in there and I said, Steve, can I just rummage? And he said, be my guest. He was very affable about the whole thing. So a lot of the information, you know, that I used to develop in Mind War began with documentation and things that I first came into when I was looking through the files of the Transformation Project. And
That's an incredible story.
Yeah, well, this happened because both Steve Donovan and Michael Murphy spent a lot of time in the 60s and 70s in the Soviet Union talking with the people back there who were at the very forefront of this kind of experimentation. And the United States, of course, this is a Cold War, so we didn't have our people, you know, our agents or our attachés or anything doing this. They wouldn't have gotten a welcome. But the people like Steve Donovan and Michael Murphy would go over there on their vacation time and talk with these people and get together and have vodka with them and so on and learn all kinds of stuff and then bring it back.
I got to ask you, General, this is another question that I talked about with another fellow that I was talking with just the other day. Do you personally know or have you had interactions with General Michael Flynn?
Yes.
You guys know each other pretty well?
Fairly well.
And have you
spoken? In fact, before I was in Moscow a couple months before he went over, so I talked to him before he left. And then
remember, General Flynn, who did the QAnon pledge, who had the interview, the exclusive sit-down interview with Alex Jones the night before the storm, who all the Q people hailed as their white hat hero. Now we have Vallely on Russia Today saying that yes, he's friends with General Flynn.
Then when he left to go over there and go to the 10th banquet of Russian television, and he sat with Putin. I had been in Moscow 2 months earlier than that, setting up the meeting between Trump and Putin, which I did while I was there.
Oh.
And that was at the G20 conference in 2017. So, yes.
Remember, we've seen many reports that Russian bots are promoting QAnon. That could be why all the BitChute videos are getting so many views. They're being propped up by Kremlin troll farm bots. And don't you try to pretend that Trump isn't in deep with Putin and Netanyahu and Chabad Lubavitch, and of course Russia has bots. Russia's internet research agency was busted for it.
Michael
Putin's
Flynn
friend.
must be vindicated. He was one of the individuals that the deep state attacked first, as you remember. And what they've done to that gentleman who's a great patriot and a soldier have just harmed him and his family so much. So I think all of that's going to be...
Flynn is a darling of the Zionist, and sitting at the table with Putin.
Be turned around for General Flynn. We'll see what happens shortly.
General to Tea Party groups, I would lead a coup against the U.S. government. Oh, and what do you know? We just saw that the Tea Party group was funded by the Jewish Federation of New York, and they were involved with the Stop the Steal. I can see here John Brisson, Council for National Policy series. He came on. We did a video on the CMP as well. So that was John Swin. Expose the Enemy. He's got some other really great graphics and videos and research. Follow him on YouTube and on Twitter, exposetheenemy.com. Now, I just wanted to play a couple clips now of Alex Jones. We mentioned Boykin. We mentioned Steve Pachenik, Special Operations Command.
I think it should be.
This is the video I did a while back. Alex Jones exposes Q. Oh, here's Jerome Corsi, WorldNet Daily, gets text messages from above Israeli intelligence.
And that's when I told the people who'd asked me, I said, yes, I'll do it. So that's the chronology. Yep. This level of intelligence had been shared with the public, and that the format was, the 8chan was exactly kind of the deep, way to share it with the Anons that had been chosen by Trump as the way this message was going to get out. And they wanted me to get involved in it. And that's when I did the first decodes. As soon as I started looking at them and realizing what Q was saying, and I did a couple of decodes, then I understood what was going on. And so by Christmas time, I was then willing to commit to do it. And that's when I told the people who'd asked me, I said, yes, I'll do it. So that's the chronology.
Yeah, breaking exclusive news from Dr. Jerome Corsi and his extensive connections in the Middle East.
Israel.
Where he served as an advisor to the State Department and more, in a lot of classified areas we can't get into. He has major breaking news exclusive right now. Dr. Corsi, thanks for giving InfoWars the exclusive.
Well, Alex, it's great. I'm actually today in Nashville, Tennessee, and working with a really important cybersecurity company.
Nashville, Tennessee. That reminds me of something. Nashville, Tennessee, where the bomb went off recently, right? The bomb went off recently in Nashville, Tennessee, in front of what? Cybersecurity companies, correct?
And I just got text from top intelligence in Israel. Israel has nominated Donald Trump for the 2017 Peace Prize. He was nominated last year. There's about 200 nominations, but this is in advance of Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu's visit with Trump, which is coming up in the next few days. And Israel has decided to make this nomination basically on the decision to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, and the fact that Donald Trump has had the courage of his convictions, again, another promise in the campaign, being fulfilled, taking, I think, an historic, maybe even biblical step to legitimate the state of Israel.
Oh, a biblical step, huh? The embassy is a biblical step to this Zionist fraud who thinks you have to bless Israel and you'll be blessed. This is the guy, two of the biggest pushers of QAnon early on that got the ball rolling, that created this beast that that even if they did disavow it at one point and say it got hijacked or turned anti-Semitic or whatever, they still helped create the beast, create the Frankenstein.
And the way I read the Bible basically says those who help Israel, God helps, and Donald Trump's on the right side here.
Well, certainly providence that he invoked during the inaugural speech is with our republic. And of course, England began to help the Jews when they were being persecuted going back 1,000 years ago in Europe. And of course, it's been known since then. That's why England had so much great providence.
Did you know that, England, that you had providence because you helped the Jews? Yeah, the world revolves around the Jews. So if you do good things for them, you're blessed. Talk about the biggest scam of all time. Cringe, boomer, Zionist, traitorous statements there from the both of them.
And also, of course, the Christian faith and Christ being number one. But that covenant has clearly been passed on, not just to all the Gentiles of the world through Christ, but particularly.
Well, guess what? These Orthodox Habadniks in Israelis that you're all supporting think that Christianity is idol worship. Yet they always use the religion. They're using Christian Zionism to dominate America.
To England and the United States, historians, even people that are anti-Western, have marveled that the United States of America has a special providence, Dr. Corsi.
Yes, well, even
U.S. has a special providence for helping the Jews. Meanwhile, as I just saw in the chat, yes, they believe it's their prophecies to destroy America and Europe, which is Amalek and Edom.
Well, we're talking, Israel, I just got another text message. I said we were going to break the news on Alex Jones' InfoWars broadcast. They said one word. They said, great. They're thrilled we're going to break the news on Alex Jones' InfoWars. And that comes directly from a source who's really above Mossad and the intelligence structure in Israel.
Yeah, so folks are really getting things raw here on air now.
I can never play this clip too many times to show he hired this guy who gets text messages from above Mossad and Israeli intelligence who is, quote, thrilled and great that they're going to break news on InfoWars, one of their Zionist propaganda mouthpieces.
Yeah, and so this is really, this is coming in as we're talking.
Yeah, so folks are really getting things raw here on air now.
Yeah, you're outed, shill.
How did you get?
Now, this is a little
Trump
compilation, and much of this I want to credit to Matthew North. Many of these clips, much of this research I learned from him about Alex Jones and all of his military connections, John Birch Society connections, General Boykin, Steve Pachenik, Mind Wars, Aquino, all of this stuff. Jones, in his own word now, is going to admit to all of it.
On your show prior to the election, how did you pull that off?
All right, I never tell this on my own show, and this will probably end up being news tomorrow, but you deserve it. I know folks that are part of Delta Force, and I know people that are part of covert action in the Defense Department and the CIA. And quite frankly, they've given me authorization to talk about this. I have never been in the CIA. I've never been part of covert operations, but I was basically contacted by groups inside the Special Forces operations in Florida, inside breakaway groups inside the Central.
Special operations in Florida, Tampa, Florida, U.S. SOCOM, Special Operations Command. Notice all of these emblems are tip of the spear. Alex Jones's tagline, the tip of the spear.
Intelligence agency and groups basically behind American industry that
By the
wanted
way,
to defeat the global.
Again, this is just Wikipedia too. USA Special Operations Command, the Rangers, unknown units such as Psychological Operations, PSYOPs, Civil Affairs Brigade, waging unconventional warfare and counterinsurgency. The command also manages 2 psychological operations groups. One works with foreign nations to induce or reinforce behavior favorable to U.S. Zionist objectives. Alex Jones, QAnon, Judeo-Christian Zionist PSYOP.
They're planning to bankrupt America. And so they told me that they were advising Trump on the globalist takeover and that they understood from their demographics and their studies that we actually had conservatively 15 million people a week visiting Infowars.com and tens of millions watching our videos, and that they had briefed the president, or now then candidate Trump, and that they wanted to attempt a counter coup against the globalists.
But this is what got Donald Trump to say, I got to be on this guy's show?
Donald Trump was advised by the Special Forces Command out of Florida. They said
To go on your program.
I mean, that's who actually, let's just say it, the enemy already knows all this. Let me just say this so everybody listening knows I'm telling the truth. Special Operations Command in Florida, the Delta Force, Army, Black Ops, Army's the oldest thing in America. It's before the Constitution, anything. They said, sir, you need to go with Alex Jones, and you need to rally the troops. And they briefed him. They showed him the documents, and they said, we need you to run. And the Delta Force basically asked Trump. Delta Force, founded by General Boykin and Schumacher.
There's General Boykin. Remember, we saw the graphics of Boykin involved in this, in the QAnon LARP with General Vallely. It's all there. Jones admitting to all of it.
And people like Dr. C. Pachenik of Psychological Operations of the CIA.
Dr. Pachenik, again, I mean, you don't do a lot of other interviews. You've been nice to come on my show for 15 years. It's on record with General Boykin and with Schumacher. You helped found Delta Force, Black Ops, ran psychological warfare, overthrown 8 countries. You're the Jack Ryan character. Co-wrote books with Clancy, Hollywood producer. You've done it all. Psychiatrist, MIT scientist, military officer, all that secret, obviously, in your history. But here you are saying you represent the intelligence community, and I check with people, generals, colonels, they go, absolutely, Pachenik's on target. That's exactly what all our sources from the FBI and the Pentagon, which means the CIA connected Pentagon, that's special operations, that's what they told us. And these are the good guys that continue to give us good info. Doesn't mean the whole thing's good. InfoWars is the tip of the spear, the tip of the spear, the tip of the spear.
Just total signaling to all the people in the know about the tip of the spear, who he's involved with. I started this video 3 hours ago now with Alex Jones. Steve Pachenik telling Alex Jones, remember on 9/11 when I first came on, all the intelligence people were watching you? Exactly.
Things good. InfoWars is the tip of the spear, the tip of the spear, the tip of the spear. Oh, Alex Jones is wrong about Anthony Bourdain. Hey, Joe, I talked to the people that were there in the production at the highest levels. They're involved in the Pentagon, everything else. I know all about it. Elon Musk. I mean, Joe.
Oh, who's involved with Anthony Bourdain? He was only mentioning Black Cube, Israeli private intel. Just like Cappy was talking about, Isaac Cappy was talking about Black Cube. Interesting enough, he was also tied in with this Q LARP as well. Both of them just happened to commit suicide talking about Black Cube. What do you know?
I'm not going to tell you, who I talked to yesterday or who I talked to this afternoon. So just let's quit pretending that we aren't the tip of the spear. Let's quit pretending that we aren't the tip of the spear. 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 The tip of the spear.
They basically delivered the message to Trump with all the dossiers and all the proof of what was happening. And he just said, you're highly recommended. All I can say is we're going to be talking a lot more because he was being briefed by top generals. I'm not going to say the name on what we're doing. And it's not that I'm even special. I'm willing to say this.
Getting briefed by top generals? Who wants to bet that's General Vallely that John Swin just exposed in his documentary?
I'm willing to do this. I wasn't directed by anybody. I was just aware of the operations. I was studying it, as you know. You're a Navy guy yourself. And we just did what we had to do. We did a counter coup against them. I'd say 90% of the CIA, defense intelligence, military, special ops is behind us. George, you're getting the absolute data dump right now.
So there's a real war going on in the elite right now. Don't think Trump just did this on his own. He was recruited by patriots and U.S. intelligence agencies, for a fact. Trump was recruited by the U.S. Army. That's a big secret, but you deserve to know what the Democrats already know.
How come nobody in mainstream media can put any of this together? It's up to people like John Swin, Expose the Enemy, and myself to dig deep into this. Literally the Zionist, the foreigner Zionist worshipers that are running a coup on the country.
You deserve to understand what's really going on. There's a civil war in America right now. One group wanted to totally sell out the communist Chinese. That's coming up in the next segment. The other group isn't out to rape America completely.
There's the dialectic. Just admitting the other group doesn't want to rape us completely. He's talking about the Zionists. This false dichotomy that it's you either align with Netanyahu and the Zionists, or you're, the SJWs and the communists and the Chi-Coms, as if that's the paradigm. Meanwhile, the Israelis and the Chi-Coms are working closely together.
So you're kind of stuck between that.
I can't believe it.
Stuck between that. John Swin, I just saw, is in the chat again. He says that Coast to Coast is deep tied in with all of us as well. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all.
I mean, telling us right now, I'm just going to go all the way right now. And the situation in Syria and Egypt, and our friends in Israel. You say people want to demonize Israel all day. It's because the real folks that are in Israel, the real people, understand what it is to be persecuted and targeted. And Israel, with Benjamin Netanyahu, they're trying to remove from office right now. And again, I was never even a fan of Netanyahu. I wasn't his enemy. I just wasn't studying it.
I was never against him. I just wasn't studying it enough. And now Netanyahu is our friend, and people attack him for no reason. And Netanyahu's our real friend in Israel. Yeah, Ivanka's 8 patents in China. Jones isn't a Zionist shill. He just tells you that people hate Netanyahu for no reason, and that if you study it more, you'll actually like Netanyahu. That's what he tells you. Here comes Netanyahu and the cavalry to save Trump and save America.
Have come to America's aid to defeat this.
You can say what you want about Netanyahu, folks. He's not trying to overthrow the U.S. He's rooting for our economy. He's trying to support Trump. They're trying to remove him. Say what you want about Netanyahu. Everybody, it's so fashionable to hate Netanyahu and not know why.
Yeah, you're a Netanyahu shill, you fraud.
Just know this. There's large elements of the Israel lobby trying to stabilize the United States. And
Netanyahu literally wrote like the books on the war on terror, deeply involved with pushing us into all those wars after 9/11. Deeply involved in 9/11, in my opinion. His weekly phone calls with Larry Silverstein, the owner of the buildings, meeting with the Rebbe, telling him do more to usher the Moshiach. The tech agenda for Israel to dominate in tech and rule the world with a technocracy, the mark of the beast. Oh, Netanyahu is on film in a family's home in the West Bank, illegal settlements. And he says, oh, we can do whatever we want. The evangelical Americans, they support us no matter what we do. Laughing at our faces.
Actually trying to stop the complete...
Yeah, the Israeli lobby is stabilizing the United States. You heard that right, damn Bigfoot.
You can say what you want about Netanyahu, folks. He's not trying to overthrow the U.S. He's rooting for our economy. He's trying to support Trump. They're trying to remove him. Say what you...
Netanyahu calls China the match made in heaven, setting up the Belt and Road Initiative. They're gonna destroy America, collapse America, bleed us dry, take us for everything we got, exploit us, and then they're gonna destroy us and then move on and use Israel, Russia, and China and rule the new world, the new messianic age.
What about Netanyahu? Everybody, it's so fashionable to hate Netanyahu and not know why. Just know this. There's large elements of the Israel lobby trying to stabilize the United States and actually trying to stop the complete race war overthrow of the country. Because
the Israeli lobby's trying to stop the race war, as they all were so quick to condemn the Trump supporters as white supremacists. What a fraud, Jones. You sold out your country. I hope the shekels were worth it. No wonder you're drinking yourself to death. Like you're going to have a heart attack any day. Hope the guilt is eating at your soul, you fraud.
George Soros, that came out in documents last year in WikiLeaks and in others, that he wants to overthrow Israel. So Israel finally gets it. That, okay, they want to overthrow Israel. They want to overthrow the U.S. They want to overthrow free market. And what, replace it with a bunch of Muslims killing each other? And now we actually have parts of the Israel lobby turning against Hollywood and the leftist lobby and turning against all those crazy self-hating Jews and other people in Hollywood and in D.C. And there is a civil war really going on inside the Israel lobby to a great extent. And like the cavalry, here comes Netanyahu over here actually, supporting what Trump's doing.
Here comes the cavalry with Netanyahu to save us. Unbelievable. The biggest shill of all time.
It's the Israel lobby, the conservative Israel lobby. There's more than one that is backing the tax cuts, backing the basic Trump agenda. And that's being done out of self-preservation. Fighting the China. Fog of confusion, attacking the platforms, yes.
And no leader, I mean, first of all, no leader like QAnon, why would you attack prominent spokespeople in the movement.
Oh, I forgot about this clip. I didn't even know this was here. This is where they say Q turned anti-Semitic.
They are.
What do you think you're doing here, my friend?
Oh, this is good. Watch this. I forgot about this clip. Oh man, it just gets so much better. I should just play the whole thing.
Exactly. If you kind of look at the people
waking up to this completely, and that is a powerful lobby and on average a wealthy group of people, and to have that whole group now against the globalist is just absolutely devastating. And so you're saying Rothschilds are backing Trump versus the eugenics-based Rockefellers?
Exactly. If you kind of look at the people
I got told that my CIA sources 3 years ago, they said, oh, you're bashing the Rothschilds. Watch what they're about to do. They're going to try to actually give wealth back to the people, not because they're even good. They don't want a total worldwide bloodbath.
And so I'm
Yeah, the Rothschilds giving wealth back to the people. The founders of Israel giving wealth back to the people. Yeah, the Rothschilds are patriots now, says Alex Jones.
just revealing to you here on air that I was recruited by patriot elements inside the shadow government to take on a communist Chinese funding operation. It's not Russian.
I'm a stay-behind network for America. I'm fighting the Chinese globalist takeover. I'm fighting the Chinese globalist takeover. I'm fighting the Chinese globalist takeover.
Trump's administration's consideration of hiring a spy team of its own. And I'm also going to hear from, we're also going to hear from Alex Jones here in the first hour.
No, and Pat Riley with his son. Bring him on over.
Hey, can we get Alex a chair and mic, please? Come on, sit down, Alex. I actually want to know.
I'm going to leave, but listen.
Do you know about this, Alex?
Trump gossip editor rocked, or no, top gossip editor rocked by sex allegations. No, I don't know.
No, I'm talking about this story. Trump White House weighing plans for private spies to counter deep state enemies. So now they're going to be working with Eric Prince from Blackwater, and Mike Pompeo is basically going to set up his own team of spies to go against the anti-Trump people inside the Mueller administration. Yes, I did know about that. So it looks like they're going full bore, and they are.
What do you think you're doing here, my friend?
What do you think you're doing here, my friend? Alex Jones, Eric Prince, all of these QAnon Zionist traitors. He admits it right there. Pompeo, what do you say? And Eric Prince, Blackwater, creating an army of spies. Jones just admitted that's what Schroyer's doing.
What do you think you're doing here, my friend?
Well, I thought I was working for Russia. What, are you telling me I don't work for Russia?
No, you work for QAnon.
Yeah, Eric Prince is connected to Russia, right? And General Flynn. And Paul Vallely.
Put out a lot of exclusive info that was accurate, made a lot of predictions that were accurate up front. Then a lot of things started to be said that weren't exactly accurate or didn't happen. And then I noticed mainstream media and online, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube wouldn't block you when you were promoting that. And I thought, that's a little suspicious. But I talked to people I know in the military and others. They said, no, we know some of the people on those boards using that name. There's only 5 or 6 people. But then it started getting a little bit weird. And they said, no, somebody's hijacked it and basically hacked it and is using it and is now putting out disinformation. Like Zach, super good source. I know his full name, who he is. We got a lot of other big sources in the military. I mean, I've got sources, I'm not going to say from what units or groups, but the most elite, of the most elite, highest level, we have it. I'm going to leave it at that. CIA, Dev Group, Delta Force, you name it, all of it. Whole 9 yards. Because they're patriots. And they know what this country is in right now, where we're going. And Dr. Corsi's written 3 #1 New York Times bestsellers. He's changed elections. He's got amazing sources. He got told by the White House 6 months ago, hey, we like QAnon. But now that's not the case. And so I was on the phone this morning and talked to some folks who are out playing golf with people that have been involved in QAnon. They say, hey, that's been taken over. We're unable to even post anymore. That's not us anymore. And then Corsi was right on the same line 2 days ago in private conversations we had saying, hey, it's been compromised. Then I was sitting.
Good question. Where is Zach now? And blocked by Jerome Corsi. What a fraud. What a traitor. What a sellout. What a coward. These guys are thoroughly exposed. This is pathetic.
I'm going to talk about it on air. Then I was separately told this by QAnon. So I'm going to say again, I've talked to QAnon. There's only about 5, 6 people that have actually been posting. I've talked to QAnon, and they're saying QAnon is no longer QAnon.
You're correct. I think the White House for a long time did support QAnon. I've been following it since December. And then periodically there would be cyber attacks and it would shift. It was clear that the QAnon identity was under attack. The real shift occurred really on April 28th. That's when I really began concluding that QAnon was now completely hijacked by a operation that had hijacked the identity and was starting to publish disinformation designed to destroying the movement and dividing the movement. The posts changed in quality and their content. We started to get attacks on people profiteering, making money. You can't make any money on the patriot movement if you.
So we started to see a fog of confusion attacking the platforms. Yes,
and no leader. I mean, first of all, no leader like QAnon. Why would you attack prominent spokespeople in in the movement? Attacking me for
QAnon attacked Corsi, Alex Jones, and Jack Posobiec. Called them all Mossad.
Writing a book and making money on writing a book, and so I'm
probably to throw them under the bus and to give QAnon a credibility boost, because myself and so many others have been exposing Alex Jones as a fraud. So that gives Q credibility to call Alex Jones Mossad. And that's why Alex Jones started becoming jealous of QAnon, that they're making the money, that QAnon's getting the credit.
Began to get then just, inundated with troll type emails and postings on Twitter attacking
around death on with it.
So, God bless Q, stay above the fray and keep it coming. Keep loving, keep searching, keep connecting all those dots. And pretty soon it'll just hit tipping point and all the bad will just float away.
Amen. Thank you, Rosanna. And
all the bad is just going to float away. The fantasies that these people push with this QAnon stuff is just incredible. I wanted to touch real quick on BitChute. This guy, Charlie Ward, who's 72,000. You see the loves Q in his photo here. This guy is putting out these. He starts every video by saying, "Just remember, Jesus loves you," and then he pitches his gold. He goes, "Buy some gold. I'm not. I don't have the credibility to push this. I'm not an expert, but buy gold, buy gold." And then he just goes, "Trust the plan, grab your popcorn, patriots are in charge," nonstop. And we've got Robert David Steele endorsing these guys. Robert David Steele, total fraud. Robert David Steele. Look at this video he has up right now on BitChute. It says, "Is Q a fraud? In support of Charlie Ward and Simon Parks." Yeah, that's the Simon Parks that believes he has sex with cats and that his mom is an alien. Robert David Steele, the guy that on InfoWars a few years ago says that there's slave colonies on Mars. Steve Quayle too. Yeah, I'm sure he is. I haven't seen him for a long time. David Wilcox. What's the other guy's name? Jordan Sather. There's so many of these QAnon grifting frauds. Like I said, QAnon has been like a multi-million-dollar industry scamming poor, vulnerable, gullible people out of their money. QAnon was a massive disinformation Zionist honeypot trap that's setting up all their followers. And we got 2 more days, 48 hours. I don't want to see anybody that pushed this QAnon stuff, Amazing Polly, SGT Report, X22, Steve Pachenik, InfoWars, Jerome Corsi, they should be completely discredited forever. Nobody should listen to these people anymore. Don't let them backpedal and say, "Oh, well, I wasn't saying for sure Q was going to happen," or "I didn't totally believe it," or "I didn't really support it." Don't let them take down their videos and try to come back and try to rehabilitate their careers. Discredited forever. Frauds, grifters, sellouts, garbage. Anyway, that is all I have for today. 3-hour and 20-minute video. Remember, we're streaming on No More News Clips, KMN Clips channel on YouTube until they ban that one too, like my other 2 YouTube channels. And we're streaming on DLive right now, but I was demonetized on DLive. So if you guys want to support my work, support actually information-based, fact-based information where I show you the proof. I don't just tell you to trust me and trust the plan, and that I talked to my super secret contacts and they told me that Q is going to handle everything. Got to support the information that's valuable to you. Got to support the truth. Getting attacked by the ADL, getting attacked by Canary Mission, being subverted every which with all their dirty tricks. I'm putting the link in the chat. NoMoreNews.org. Donate page if you guys want to support. Sign up with the newsletter. Contact me if you guys want to get in contact. There's the contact form there. And I believe that is all. Appreciate you guys all so much. Thanks for watching. I'm going to put this up on BitChute, probably in a part 1 and a part 2. Please share it. Check out some of my last few videos that I've been doing if you missed those. And I will see you guys all again very soon. Take care.